I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy on smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell.
I think I just broke my chair.
He did what?
Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry I do not sound like myself. I was not on yesterday. Please forgive me. But when you have a nose that was as stuffed up as mine, you're going to have a few problems. I mean, it got to the point where I really didn't want to go to work. But I did, and now I'm back here, and I did what my wife told me. I took a nice hot shower after we got back, and I feel a little better. It's probably going to take a full day of rest. It's probably going to take a full day of rest for me to really, really get back to normal. But you know what? I'm here, and I'm ready to get after it. So let's get to it. Cole Johnson will join me. Also, you'll hear conversations that I've had with Renee Washington and also Kelsey Nicole Nelson from this past Friday. And I got a few more bits and pieces and odds and ends to add as we really get everything together. And I want to thank all of the great networks and stations that put this show on. I really, really appreciate it. But we still got some spots left. If you want to sponsor our program, drop an email to snowmandigitalmedia@gmail.com. That's snowmandigitalmedia@gmail.com. And also follow us, SNW Digital Media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. Okay, let's go. So many people came up to me asking me about the NBA All-Star Game. Did I get a chance to watch it? Did I watch the slam dunk contest? Did I watch the three-point shootout? And the answer to that is no. I beg your pardon. And I have several reasons that will put me in the minority of why I didn't watch said competition. Well, let me change that. I watched the highlights, and I still wasn't impressed. I'm not impressed with All-Star Weekend anymore, and I haven't been for some time. And I have a plethora of reasons of why I'm not impressed with All-Star Weekend. First of all, the thing that disappointed me this particular year is that it was hosted in my hometown of Chicago. The last time that it was hosted in Chicago, of course, was 1988. And a fellow named Michael Jordan won the All-Star Game MVP, but he had some help. He had Larry Bird. He had Dominique Wilkins. He had Robert Parrish. He had Isaiah Thomas. He had some All-Stars helping him. The West All-Stars featured Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, James Worthy, Karl the Mailman Malone. And that was like one of the first times I ever saw the Mailman come into his own. And I would have to honestly say that I have been disillusioned with the All-Star Game for a while. Let me get into why. I had a chance to take a look at the introductions that was done by Chicago's own artist, Common. Now, I love Common. Don't get it twisted. I love Common. But did you have to put the stars on a stage before they play? Did you have to introduce them with all the spotlights and all that stuff? It's not necessary. I thought the All-Star game was about the stars, the NBA stars, not the stars of entertainment. It's become more sports entertainment than basketball. Now, a sidebar, the tributes they did to one Kobe Bryant, phenomenal. Absolutely fantastic. That part they got right. I will also say that the rule that was added with the teams playing for charity, I love that, and I think they should keep that rule. Now, from the sidebar to the main bar, it should still be East versus West. Let me say that again. It shouldn't be Team Giannis or Team LeBron. Dear God, it shouldn't be Team LeBron. Okay? Now, I understand he's a popular player, and I understand he got the most votes. I get that. But it should be East versus West. End of story. It should be the best of the East and the best of the West. And if the West keeps on kicking the Eastern Conference's ass, so what? It should be old school. It should be East versus West. One of the rules that I talked about when I did my Snowman's take on the rules of the game, why are you restarting the score after every quarter? Why is that? It started with a jump ball for the first, second, and third quarters. Why? I know back in the day each quarter started with a jump ball, but at least they kept the damn score. They kept the damn score running. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that they reset the score after every single quarter for the first three periods. I also don't like the fact that the fourth quarter wasn't timed, that they played to a score. You should play 4 12-minute quarters, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins the game. Isn't that how it was supposed to be? Isn't that how it was made? Now, kudos to Ice Cube and the Big Three where they play to a score, and the basketball tournament, college alumni playing to a score. I get that. But at the same time, that's what the precedent they set for their leagues. The NBA precedent was set when you play 4 12-minute quarters, and whoever had the most points at the end of those 4 12-minute quarters won the game. If it was tied at the end of regulation, you go to overtime. And you play 5 minutes and see who has the most points at the end of the 5 minutes. Period. I don't like the fact that they changed all these rules around. Now, I will not push back against them naming the All-Star Game Award after one Kobe Bryant. Okay? That move I love. Okay? I just wish it wasn't posthumous. I just wish the fan part of me still wishes that Kobe was here. I really, really wish that Kobe was still here. Okay? I'll give you that. I wish like hell that he was still here, but he's no longer here, and we have to continue to honor him. But wouldn't you like to honor him by playing hard, by encapsulating his Mamba mentality, by going out and practicing as hard as you can, being a good teammate to your teammates, being a good leader on the floor, playing all 82 games? LeBron, Kawhi, listen carefully. Playing all 82 games. If you're scheduled to play, you play. That's how Kobe wanted it. I mean, who the hell heard of this load management? But I digress. Wouldn't you want to honor Kobe Bryant by going out in this all-star game and being the star of stars? David Stern said that about Michael Jordan 3 different times. When Michael Jordan won the all-star game MVP 3 different times. 1988, 1996, 1998. The star of stars. If you want to be the star of stars, go out and play like it. Keep the rules the way that they are. If you want to tweak it a little bit in-game, I understand that. Okay? And that's just the game that pissed me off. I beg your pardon. The three-point contest got on my nerves. Why did they add 2 shots to the three-point contest? The Mountain Dew 3-point shots. Normally, there's 5 racks, 5 shots in each rack. The final shot in the rack was the money ball. They tweaked that a few years ago and had the players that were participating select a rack that would be all money balls. I mean, what the hell's the matter with this? Can't you find a way, if you're a good three-point shooter, can't you find a way to put most of the balls in the basket? What's wrong with this? I mean, I keep bringing it back to 1988, and I've gotten a lot of pushback from 1988. I've gotten a lot of pushback from friends and foes alike for my reference of 1988 in Chicago Stadium. Yeah, it's the fan part of me because it was in my hometown. It was in Chicago, okay? It was in my hometown. At the same time, 1988 was one of the greatest, if not the greatest, all-star games played because of the players that were in it, because of the surrounding. It was in the old barn, Chicago Stadium. It was how everyone was introduced. It was like a game. It was like a game. You get introduced, you run out on the floor, and you shake hands with your teammates. You don't have a stage and a concert set up and all the glowing lights and everything like that. Even in Orlando, when Orlando got to host their first All-Star game in 1992, they didn't dim the lights. They didn't, put spotlights on everyone. I mean, they started doing the spotlights a little later, but they still kept the house lights on, even as far as 1998 that I remember. They kept the house lights on. And they put the spotlights on the players that were running out of the tunnel. I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but you're gonna have to forgive me for this. But I know for a fact I'm in the minority when I say the All-Star Weekend could be a hell of a lot better. And let me get to the slam dunk contest. You see, and I'm going to talk with Cole Johnson about this later on in the program in an unedited conversation. Listen, I understand. I truly, truly understand trying to hype the slam dunk contest up. Because remember, once upon a time, they took the slam dunk contest away. They took it away. They brought it back, but they should never have taken it away in the first place. They should never have taken the slam dunk contest away in the first place. I blame that on the NBA and not marketing it correctly. Okay? Why did you have to take the slam dunk contest away for those couple years? Then they found out they needed it and they brought it back. They found out, hey, we actually need this contest to bring the fans in. Well, if you actually had some dunkers that actually were creative instead of jumping over props and jumping over people, then maybe, just maybe, you'll have some interest back in the All-Star game. I'm not going to completely diss 2016 because, hey, there was some creativity there. There was. But the biggest problem I had with the 2016 Slam Dunk Contest as well as the 2020 All-Star Contest is the wrong person won. Zach LaVine won in 2016, and Derrick Jones Jr. won in 2020. Here's my first question. Who the hell is Derrick Jones? A bench player for the Miami Heat who can jump. Okay? A bench player for the Miami Heat who can jump. And he does nothing but windmill dunks. Haven't we seen that before? Haven't we seen him do that before in game? You mean to tell me him taking up from the free throw line and doing a windmill, not splitting the legs out, doing a double pump? You mean to tell me that got the people's attention? I'm sorry, but I wasn't impressed with the slam dunk contest. And I haven't been impressed with the slam dunk contest since 2004 when Jason Richardson won it. You remember Jason Richardson, a jumper out of Michigan State University, spent some time with the Golden State Warriors and the Phoenix Suns and actually performed his dunks without the use of props. You remember that? I mean, one thing that really got on my nerve in the evolution, if you want to call it, of the slam dunk contest is when they started jumping over things. Blake Griffin jumping over a car while the choir is singing. Is all that necessary? Is all of that really necessary? if you can put a little bit of creativity behind your dunk and not let everybody know what you're going to do. Now, I love Dwight Howard's Superman dunk, 2008 and 2020, when he stripped the shirt off and he saw the number 24 in homage to Kobe Bean. Give you that. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Originality. I love that. The Superman dunk that Dwight Howard did in 2008. I love that. Vince Carter's dunks in 2000 in Oakland, California. Love those. Love Dwight Howard's dunks, all of his dunks in 2008. Taking the ball off the little hoop and ramming it into the big hoop. Him jumping on a 12-foot rim a year later. That stuff I liked. But you're jumping over mascots and things. No, it's getting to be too much. It's being too much of the same damn thing. It's becoming too much of the same damn thing that we see year after year, over and over again, and there's no originality in it. Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon perfected jumping over mascots. Aaron Gordon especially when the mascot was spinning. That was a hell of a dunk. But what about some originality where, I don't know, Cedric Ceballos brought in 1992 when he did a dunk blindfolded? How about that? How about just showing off your athletic ability like Julius Erving did in 1976 in Denver, Colorado? Michael Jordan in 1985, 87, and 88 jumping from the free throw line. How about that? How about the fact Larry Nance dunked 2 balls in the same hoop? He was the first one to do that. How about JaVale McGee? And yes, I'll give JaVale McGee, the Shaqtin' the Fool legend himself, some credit where he dunked 3 balls. I'll give him that credit, okay? That is something I've never seen before. A 3-ball dunk. And then Aaron Gordon loses out by a point because he clipped 7-foot 5-inch Taco Fall. Really? Aaron Gordon got robbed. And he said he's no longer participating in the slam dunk contest. And Aaron Gordon, I don't blame you. I do not blame you at all. Period. I don't blame AG for not participating anymore. Because it's a farce, because it's bogus to have not 1, but 2 slam dunk contests taken away from you. Because the judges felt that you didn't do enough when it was clear to the fans that he did more than enough to win the slam dunk contest, not once but twice. And as far as the 3-point contest goes, there was no Steph, there was no Clay. Granted, it was due to injuries, but half of these people, I don't know who the hell they are. Okay? So that's on the NBA for putting out there who's participating in the slam dunk contest and doing in the 3-point contest, I beg your pardon, and doing a better job of who's in there. You want to make the All-Star game better? Strip the team captains of their names and put East versus West again. You want to make the All-Star game better? Put 12 minutes on the clock for each period, please, including the 4th period. Don't play to a score. You know how long that would be? Do you know how long it would be for those All-Stars and how many 3-point shots would be jacked up all over the place? Now, granted, they're doing it now, but at the same time, do you know how long that 4th quarter would be if they were to play to a score? No, man. Go old school. East versus West, whoever gets the most points wins. Period. Period. And as far as the 3-point contests go, I know I shouldn't say go back to the regular scoring, but when you have the regular scoring minus the 3-point balls, you can have 30 points. Easy. First 4 in the rack are worth a point apiece. The money balls were 2 points. They're trying to bloat up they're trying to bloat up the scoring. They're trying to bloat up the shots, and they're trying to wear these players out. Okay? That's why I wouldn't be surprised when Steph and Clay are healthy again that they don't participate in the 3-point contest, and I can't say that I blame them. I can't say that I blame them if they go that route. And another thing that is nerve-wracking to me, and I got a lot of pushback for this statement, but I don't care. I'm going to warn you folks right now There's a lot of things going forward that I'm going to say about how I feel and back it up with facts, and I'm going to get a lot of pushback from you fans, and I know this. A, thank you for listening, but B, I don't care. Let's have a discussion. I know the next game, All-Star game, is held in Seattle and then Cleveland after that. God, why Cleveland? Why'd they have it in Cleveland for the 50th anniversary? But I digress. The next All-Star, one of these All-Star games, this is the statement I said. The next All-Star game should be nowhere else but Seattle. Now, they don't have an arena ready for it. The fans are so rabid. They are so loyal to the Seattle Supersonics that you can't tell me you can't get an arena built. Hey, Adam Silver, why don't you do what David Stern didn't do? You can slide a little cash legally to Seattle and say, here, build an arena on me. You could have that done if you really cared enough. And I know I'm going to say some things that are really going to piss people off, but I don't care. This is how I feel. David Stern, making money hand over fist, could have easily put a fund together to get Seattle a new arena. Instead, he got in bed with Clay Bennett, and Clay Bennett engineered the takeover of the Sonics and moved them out of Seattle and stripped their history with him. I will never forgive him for that. Adam Silver, you got a chance now to right a wrong, and you ain't done it yet. When are you going to have a little bit of nerve and actually right a wrong and put a team back in Seattle? They're long overdue for it. They're long overdue. You could easily, I tell you, drop some money to Seattle and have it legally done. Have it legally done where you can say, you know what? I was wrong. We'll put some money together from each of the teams, get an arena built, and we'll have a team in Seattle. Tell Oklahoma City, hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. You don't belong in Oklahoma City. You belong in Seattle. The Seattle Supersonics, and I said this last week on the program, and I will continue to say it, the Seattle Supersonics belong in operation. Period. Let me say that again for those of you that are listening for the first time. It goes like this. The Seattle Supersonics still belong in operation. Period. What's the matter? Little things hurt you like that? Good. Let's have a discussion about it. Tweet me at SNW Digital Media with your thoughts, and I'm willing to listen. I'm absolutely willing to listen. But as far as this goes, the NBA, if it can host a game in a non-NBA market like they did in 2007 when they hosted it in Las Vegas, and that wasn't a good draw, then damn it, they can put a game together and host it in Seattle, Washington, and it would be at that game where they would announce the return of the Seattle Supersonics. Period. I'll say it again. If they can have an NBA game in an out-of-market place like Las Vegas, Nevada, then they damn sure can have a game in a quote-unquote out-of-market place like Seattle, Washington, and use that night to announce the return of the Seattle Supersonics. Because the Seattle Supersonics should never have been kidnapped. And they were kidnapped out of Seattle, and they were forced to move to Oklahoma City. But as Dennis Miller says best, that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I don't think I'm going to be wrong, though. I'll say it one final time before I go to a break. And there are going to be very few breaks because I got the feeling I'm going to have a long conversation with one Cole Johnson here later on in the program. The Seattle Supersonics should be in operation. The Oklahoma City Thunder does not deserve a team. They were a temporary home while Hurricane Katrina got taken care of. I hate to say it about Oklahoma City, and I know the fans have been rabid there. Matter of fact, you know what you do? Start a new team in Seattle. You want to avoid the argument? Start a new team in Seattle. Or you do the right thing and you move a team out of Oklahoma City and back to Seattle. Give the fans what they deserve. And NBA, in terms of All-Star Weekend, give the fans what they deserve, please. Give them something to cheer about. I got more for you. Kelsey Nelson was on my show Friday. You'll hear that conversation in its entirety. Snowman in the morning, back in a flash.
This is Snowman in the morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program as we roll right along here. Don't forget to check out all the festivities and the podcast on my new website, snowmandigitalmedia.com, and the ID you need for Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram is SNW Digital Media. Now, the guest that I have on the line for you, I haven't had this young lady on the line in 2 years. And the last time I had her on, I teased her mercilessly for a good 20 minutes. But we had a great conversation. She and I are two of the busiest people in sports. And if you follow along with what she's doing, you'll understand. She lived out a dream I'm going to make a reality next year. She had a chance to cover the Super Bowl, and I'm going to do that next year in Tampa, and I intend to see her at Raymond James Stadium. The guest I have for you is Miss Kelsey Nicole Nelson of Listen In with KNN, and she joins me right now. How are you, my dear? It's been a while.
Hi, I am great. I cannot believe it's been 2 years. Truly, where does time go?
Man, look, the last time we spoke, you were just getting started in covering Georgetown. And we had a great piece about that. And like I said, she was at the Super Bowl in Miami. You got to take me through that experience. How was that, covering the Super Bowl?
Oh, my gosh. So this is now my second Super Bowl. Atlanta was my first. And it was in Miami, of course. It was like 80 degrees on game day. No coats needed. And then we had a great game. Mm-hmm. So it was like one of the most thrilling experiences because I was down there for 8 days. So you're doing Radio Row, you're doing a bunch of interviews beforehand. Yep. You have stars and celebrities all around you. You're going to different events. You're meeting people. Like, there's nothing like the Super Bowl. Now, I haven't been to NBA All-Star yet. I wanted to go this year, but I'm a bit too busy. So next year, that's on my list when it's in Indy. Yep. But I've heard only NBA All-Star even comes close to the joy of Super Bowl. But Super Bowl is like the most watched game in the entire country, right? So, I mean, nothing compares to that. And it's a fun time. Like, I remember everything, and it's something I think I'll remember until I go down in the grave. Like, it's just one of those things.
When I first had this young lady on the show, it was 2013, and she called on a whim, folks. She called on a whim. We had a great conversation then. We've kept in touch. She's been one of my best friends, not just in broadcasting, but in life. It's wonderful to have you on the show. And I have to pay you this compliment. Your program, Listen In with KNN, A, is a favorite of mine. B, I'm a faithful listener. Yay. And C, you had me on that program last summer, and it was a blast. Tell me how you got that program started.
Sure. Such a great question. So Listen In with KNN is my baby, my brainchild. Mm-hmm. And it's just a show I wanted to start it. I thought it was a great way to showcase my personality, showcase my interview skills, and then I really wanted to have a wide range of guests and kind of go outside of the box. And so I've had a lot of great guests come through. It's a fun podcast. We talk about hot topics in sports. We, of course, talk about their background, even touch on controversial issues. And so I think it's just something people can go home and listen to or start their day with. And again, just listen in with KNN, listen in with me, hear the conversation, comment your thoughts. And hopefully it's a podcast that everyone, no matter their background, no matter what sports they like, hopefully it's something they can get behind, rally behind. And I always say, I always want somebody to learn something and have fun. Those are my two goals. To learn something and have fun. So hopefully every podcast episode, I'm doing that job.
You are definitely doing those two things. And at the top of this year, I decided, I'm going to start recommending some podcasts to people aside of the podcast version of this show, which is an hour. The live show is 3 hours. And I fully recommend listening with KNN. She does have some great guests on there. And like I said, last summer, I had the opportunity to be on that program. And at the time we talked, we were talking NBA World Championship Series because I had correctly picked Golden State, but incorrectly picked Milwaukee. Toronto came out of nowhere, and not only did they win the East, they won the whole thing. And I showed them a lot of love on the program.
We the North.
Yeah, we the North. How did Mike Breen put it? We the North are now we the champions. And I absolutely love the way he put that. How's the show been going?
The show has been fantastic. I just had Santia Deck on. If people have been following women's football, she's with the newly formed Women's Football League Association, the first multi-million-dollar signee for that football league, which I thought was tremendous. And if you've been following this, you also know that Ja Rule bought the New York team in this league. So I think it's very promising. It's exciting. Of course, I think the biggest show I've had since we talked was when I had LeVar Ball on. And still to this day, that's been my top episode. It was a controversial episode, yes, because he called some people out. But we just had a good conversation, which was fantastic. I've had MLS stars on. I've had European Soccer League stars on. I had the USA Rugby coach on. I've had Mike Hill on, who, of course, congrats to him, is getting married to Miss Cynthia Daly on The Real Housewives. I mean, it's been so fun. I've had retired players, current players. So it's been everyone, and I really just try to have people on that are doing their thing in sports and just try to get them to share their story.
Yeah, and I'm starting to get that lineup also. I had some friends helping me get some stars for this show. So, folks, beginning in March, when we start covering the NCAA tournament, you'll see that star list kind of go up a couple of notches. But one star that I did have on the show, and we had a great conversation when I had my afternoon program, was Cliff Levingston, former two-time world champion with the Chicago Bulls. Started his career with with Detroit, I beg your pardon. Then he moved to Atlanta, and of course he finished his career with the Bulls. I tell you what, he had me cracking up laughing for a good 20 minutes with some of the questions I asked him.
That's interview.
And that is it's one of my best. I'm going to put it on the website for Snowman Digital Media, and y'all need to check it out. But as soon as I asked him what was one of the worst arenas, and we're talking about the 80s and 90s when he played, as soon as I asked him one of the worst arenas where he didn't want to play, I kind of knew what his answer was, but as soon as he spat out Richfield Coliseum, Richfield, Ohio, I cracked up laughing.
Oh, hilarious!
It's like, and I know, and you've been through this. You kind of get the feeling you know what some of your guests' answers will be, but as soon as they spit them out, you just lose it. You just lose it. And you're like, I knew it. I knew that was going to happen.
Oh, that's too funny. But that's what makes the interview fun.
Yeah.
And it really gives your listeners a chance to dive in and feel a part of the conversation. But that's such a great answer.
It's like I kind of knew it would be Richfield Coliseum. Lord knows, I being from Chicago, saw Michael Jordan play his entire Chicago career. Didn't you get the feeling when you watched him play against the Cavaliers, he was trying to break their hearts on purpose, and he wound up doing it several times over?
Oh, yes. It was definitely a repeat and something that the Cavs may not forgive for.
May not forgive. I know so many Cavalier
definitely
fans.
Won't forgive.
Right,
there
exactly.
You go. Look, I saw burned jerseys and everything. So we know how that goes. Loyalty in the NBA.
I tease a lot of my Cavalier fans, and I told them, you know what the legacy of the Cavaliers is? And they look at me and they go, uh-oh, he's got a good one. I said, yeah, y'all remember a guy named Craig Elo? And they all start laughing. So what's it like, Ben? What's it like covering my first favorite college basketball team, the Georgetown Hoyas?
Yes, Hoya Saxa. Well, for me, it's a thrill and joy because, of course, I went to grad school at Georgetown.
Right.
And covering Georgetown now, I'm covering Georgetown football and basketball, and I actually will be at the women's game this Sunday when they face off against Villanova. But the men's team, it's been fun. Okay, we're in the Pat Ewing era. All
Yes.
right, we're talking about one and only Pat Ewing. All right, so it's
yes, we're talking about number 33 for Georgetown and for the New York. Patrick Ewing was my first favorite college player, but then Michael Jordan hit a jump shot, and I have been torn since that night in '82 when Jordan hit the game winner because I wanted to see Georgetown win.
Oh,
They did 2 years later, but at the same time, in that game in '82, who knew that we would see so many not only repeat All-Stars but Hall of Famers in that game? Of course, Michael Jordan. Of course,
Isn't
Patrick
that crazy?
Ewing.
Yep.
James Worthy, who wound up being the most outstanding player in that game. James Worthy, I still feel to this day, even though he's in the Hall of Fame, is so underrated. But
he is. People don't talk about him enough. And you talked about, just greatness.
Yes. I mean, how can you not mention James Worthy, who a lot of people forget because of Michael Jordan's heroics? James Worthy was the most outstanding player in that game in '82. Yep.
And you talked about it. And this is why, though, when I'm covering that team, and again, having Pat at the helm, I just think of all that history and legacy that he brings with him. And I hope those players understand what they're getting with a guy like Pat. And I'll be honest with you, Georgetown has been great to cover, but of course, unfortunately, that whole sexual harassment, sexual assault case that hit the Georgetown Hoyas basketball team was rough, and I think it kind of changed things a bit. But I really think it showed Pat's leadership. Because he is a player's coach. And I think Pat's also doing a great job at starting to make sure that he recruits local talent, because that had been for a long time a criticism of Georgetown basketball, and it's something here in the DMV. So in the DMV area, we breed ball players, we like to say, be that football and basketball. So University of Maryland coach Mike Loxley just came out and said he's making recruiting local talent a priority of his. Mark Turgeon has said that with the Maryland Terrapins basketball team. And now I think having Pat say that and be that person, I think it's just promising. And, everybody's looking to him for that. But look, Georgetown Hoyas have a solid, good basketball team. Now, are they the old Big East as of late? No. All right. We're not going back to those good Big East games. But it's still fun to watch them and catch them down at Capital One Arena. Mac McClung, if you don't know that name in the Georgetown Hoyas, look him up. So again, young, bright, talented team. I think Pat has his work cut out for him. But it's definitely a fun time.
Capital One Arena will not be the Capitol Center when Patrick Ewing played there, and oh my gosh, I'm starting to get memories now. The battle he had with one Ralph Sampson, that was a nationally televised game. It was only supposed to be on cable, but then all of a sudden, two of the major stations, and like I said, I grew up in Chicago, two of the major stations wound up carrying that game on local television, and we're all sitting in the living room watching this, and we're going, wow. And you hear that place and how loud it is. I'm waiting for the day that Capital One Arena gets that loud when Patrick Ewing leads Georgetown back to prominence.
Me and you both. And look, those are the days we hope for. The Wizards play at Capital One Arena. Wizards games are not loud, all right, folks. I'm just going to be honest with you. Unless a really good team is in town. And I think that's what we've wanted. Look, when I grew up as a kid, when it was back then MCI Center, then it was Verizon Center, now it's Capital One Arena. But back when I was growing up there, we had some glory days there. You talk about the Mike Sweetneys of the world, and just so many great and talented players that came through that Georgetown era. Roy Hilbert, just so many big names I can go back to that I remember growing up watching. And then remember when they were playing in McDonough Arena. So I'm talking about Capital One Arena, not for Georgetown, for Wizards games. But when they were playing those games in McDonough Arena, before they even got to Capital One Arena, and it was that tight, hot gym, that sweaty gym, standing room only. Oh my gosh. Some of the best basketball games that I've seen. And that's where, of course, where the women play now. And they used to always do at least one game there. They don't really do that now. But just good memories. But just Georgetown has a legacy of basketball, right? It's the Allen Iverson days, right? Just the Kembe Mutombo days,
Rejection Row, Dikembe Mutombo, Alonzo Mourning.
We can talk. So much greatness has come from that. You talked about Alonzo Mourning. Remember his son, Trey Mourning?
Yes.
Actually plays for the Georgetown Boys. So, I mean, just great basketball. But I think Pat is going to try to get them to that level. And because of his background, I think the donors are giving him more time to do that because it takes time to rebuild a basketball program, folks.
Yes.
It does not happen overnight. And I think he's going to try to do that because if Georgetown can get to any near type of level they used to be, I'm telling you, fun times in D.C. I'll tell you real quick. The funnest Georgetown games, and we haven't had them scheduled, but when Georgetown played Maryland, and it's kind of a rivalry they're trying to start, that was probably the last time I've heard a Capital One Arena Georgetown game that loud. I don't remember that game. Georgetown always played the Maryland Terrapins.
Yes.
So much fun, that crosstown rivalry.
Yeah.
That's the last time I heard a game like just with that much intensity.
I mean, the last time I saw Georgetown get to the Final Four, which of course was 2007, and it was March of 2007. And my dad was watching the game with me, and we both remember watching Patrick Ewing, me growing up and him watching it with me. When they beat, of all teams, North Carolina in the East Regional Final to get to the Final Four, both of us were crying because we remember that championship game in New Orleans, and then they beat North Carolina in overtime to get to the Final Four, and we look at each other and we're going, it's the glory days again. Georgetown is in the Final Four, and we couldn't believe it. And
that overtime victory.
Yes, it was an overtime victory in East Rutherford, New Jersey, for them to get to the Final Four. I could sit and talk with Kelsey all day about Georgetown basketball because, like I said, that was my first favorite team growing up. I mentioned, of course, Patrick Ewing started me on that road. Rejection Row with Alonzo Mourning and Dikembe Mutombo. Of course, John Thompson was the leader of that team for many, many years as the head coach. Then John Thompson Jr. And now it circles all the way back around to Patrick Ewing being the head coach. And I'm waiting for the old school Big East to come back again. You mentioned Georgetown and Villanova.
The Big East used to be the thing, right, in college basketball.
Wasn't it?
And of course now ACC pretty much owns college basketball.
Yep.
And the Big Ten, they make a run for it here and there, but the Big East, look, there are no times like the Big East times in college basketball. I mean, it's real gritty, nitty-gritty, tough, hard core basketball. And that's what we want back. I told
my wife one of the things I would love to do is to see all of my favorite arenas growing up, all of my favorite stadiums growing up. And unfortunately I can't see the Capitol Center. That's gone. But I did get a chance one year to see the Spectrum in Philadelphia, I beg your pardon. Yeah. Because Villanova would host all their Big East games at the Spectrum. When it was Syracuse, when it was Georgetown, when it was Seton Hall, especially Georgetown. If Georgetown came to Philadelphia to play Villanova, they weren't playing at the small arena. They were playing at the Spectrum. They wanted a crowd for that game, and you put 18,000 people in there, and they're going to be on their feet for the entire game.
I mean, and that's what it's about. And like you said, I mean, again, I'm not saying the East basketball games are not fun. And I will say, Georgetown still gets a pretty good crowd when they face off against Syracuse. But it's not the same. It's not the same. And again, being from here and growing up and going to those games, I know what it was like. And so Pat needs time to get to that level.
Yes.
But I think, he's kind of getting there. And if we're talking about college basketball, I don't think they're getting enough notoriety. But the crosstown Maryland and what they've done this season, Mark Turgeon. And again, Maryland's that quiet but really good basketball team. Some are putting Maryland already in their Final Four. And let's also remember, it's been a while since Maryland has hoisted that national championship trophy. Because you go across the border and cross state, UVA had just won it, right? So we're hoping some of that trickles here down the Beltway. And probably most likely we'll go to Maryland, of course, before Georgetown this season. But it's a good time for college basketball here in the DMV.
It is a very good time. And it's also a very good time for y'all to check out Listen In with KNN wherever you listen to podcasts. I was a guest on there. I am a faithful listener. She puts out some great programs, and I want y'all to check it out. This is Kelsey Nicole Nelson joining me here on the program. I thank you so much for coming on And I'm not going to wait 2 years to have you on. I got to have you back on soon, especially to talk some college hoops as we travel down the road to Atlanta.
Oh, I'd love it. Thanks so much for having me.
I really appreciate it. Folks, we got more after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning,
Holy on slow!
where true sports talk lives.
I like him. He's silly.
All right, folks. There's a young man that I have not had on the show in over a week. And now that the season has concluded, I get to have him on again because we kind of missed a connection. Mike DeBate joins me. And, Mike, have you got your ears on, my friend?
Always for you, my friend. I've got my ears on. I'm locked and loaded and ready to go. Been a long time since we've spoken, but all good, and I always love coming on. Thank you for having me on, Brian.
Man, I love having you on. This is Mike DeBate of Full Press Coverage. Of course, he joins me to talk NFL. The season is concluded. Chiefs and the 49ers. Let's start with the world champion Chiefs. They 21 points in 6 minutes. Nothing but praise for both of these teams, and one hell of a Super Bowl that they put on.
Yeah, tremendous game for both teams, if you think about it. When you look at it, 49ers definitely had their chances. The Chiefs, credit them. Come from tip your cap to both teams. Patrick Mahomes definitely showed that he is among, if not atop, of the elite quarterbacks in this league. I can't say enough about the game that he had. Damian Williams, as a running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, was phenomenal in this game. You can make the argument that he could have been considered for the MVP along with Mahomes. I don't think they necessarily made a bad decision by giving it to Patrick, but Williams, I thought, had a tremendous game as well. Got to credit the Kansas City defense. They made stops when they needed to. I thought on the San Francisco side, I thought they played very well on defense, well enough to win this. Just unfortunately, it came down to Kansas City making more plays than San Francisco did in the latter part of the game. So a great Super Bowl, great victory for the Chiefs. But if you're a Niners fan, fear not. This team's going to be back, and they're going to be ready to go in 2020.
And don't be surprised. And I said this right after the game. You know, I went to bed, and my wife said, did the 49ers win? I said, nope, the Chiefs did. And she looked at me, and she had that smile. And before I could say anything, she spits out, don't be surprised if these two have a repeat performance in 2020 when we're in Tampa. And I say the same thing. Don't be surprised if these two go at it again 1 year from now.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. You take a look at the way these two teams are constituted, the way they're built. They have the better part of their cores coming back. Very few off-season questions for either one of these teams. So you look at it, they're primed for another repeat performance. Of course, me being up here in New England, I hope that one other player is playing maybe a game in Tampa. Let's make hope you can't make the assumption that guy's coming back. I love to believe he will be, but in actuality, no. I think you look at these two teams, and right now they have to be the favorites in their two conferences simply because of the fact that they're the two hottest teams right now. And like I said, there are very few off-season questions for the Chiefs and for the 49ers. So if they can keep that core intact, and by all accounts they should, these two teams seem to be on a collision course once again. Let's take a look inside of the rumor mill, and I heard something that got my ears peaked, and it got my attention peaked. It concerns wide receiver A.J. Green. Of course, now with the Cincinnati Bengals, there's a rumor flying around right now that A.J. Green may change his Bengals stripes for Gold Rush stripes. There's a lot of people saying right now that the favorite to land A.J. Green resides in the Bay. Can you imagine how dangerous that receiver core will be if A.J. Green does indeed wind up signing with San Francisco? It will be, and that's a very interesting spot for him. I did hear the same rumors, and I've heard a lot of rumblings about, of course, up here in New England, a lot of people seem to think that he's rumored to the Patriots an awful lot. To tell you the truth, I really don't see that. I don't think A.J. is the type of receiver that would come up here and be able to succeed right off the bat. I think the 49ers offense is tailor-made for him. I think the way that they play and the types of routes that they run in San Francisco makes it a little bit easier for a guy like A.J. Green to come in and assimilate very quickly. To me, I think that's a great spot for him. You pair him right alongside a guy like Deebo Samuel, all of a sudden you're taking a look at a guy that can run the backfield, have those jet sweep motions, and then a pure take the top off the defense receiver in A.J. Green, even a guy that can drop back and play the slot a little bit. So this could be a very interesting fit for them, especially if you believe the rumors that Emmanuel Sanders could go either way at this point. That there's rumors that he may move on. There's rumors that he loves San Francisco and would love to stick around. I personally, as someone that's followed the Niners the last few years, I think that's a great spot for Emmanuel, and I think he can help to build that young wide receiver core that they have in San Francisco. But A.J. Green would be an interesting fit for them. The one thing that you want to be careful of if you're a Niners fan or if you're a part of the Niners organization is the injury history and the difficulties that he's had staying on the field. If he can figure out a way to get that taken care of, then that's definitely one of the more formidable wide receivers in the league, and he can definitely help a team, especially a team like the 49ers. He may even put them over the top.
And don't forget, folks, not only did the 49ers draft Deebo Samuel, they drafted another receiver, out of Baylor in Jalen Hurd, who spent this year on IR. And can you imagine that core, should A.J. Green sign with San Francisco and keep Emmanuel Sanders, and all indications are by this Niner fan and insider that Emmanuel Sanders will stay in San Francisco. Of course, Deebo Samuel, that's 3, and then you put a 4th receiver out there in Jalen Hurd. Then, of course, you got to add George Kittle to the mix. You want to talk about some weaponry. Garoppolo, as it stands right now, and we don't know where A.J. Green is going to land, as it stands right now, with Jalen Hurd coming back from injury and the possibility of A.J. Green coming to the Bay, this passing game is going to get another serious upgrade.
Amazing. And you think about the running game that San Francisco already employs by putting these guys alongside a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, being able to utilize those weapons, it only adds another dimension to his game. I thought Jimmy played a serviceable game in the Super Bowl. I think he's getting a lot of undue criticism for the job that he did in the second half. I think a lot of that was breakdowns in communication. I think a lot of it was play calling. These things needed to be shored up. Unfortunately, for the 49ers, it just didn't end up working out. And a lot of that has to be credited to the Kansas City defense, too, who I think played their best game of the season. And I think that's why they ended up winning the Super Bowl. But getting back to Green, putting him in a San Francisco uniform does change the dimension. And you mentioned Jalen Hurd. Hurd and Samuel were 2 guys that I scouted pretty heavily last year in doing my draft prep and analysis going into the 2019 draft. I liked them for the Patriots. I really thought that either one of those players, as a matter of fact, in a couple of different mocks that I did, I mocked Samuel going to the Patriots in one and Hurd going in the other. So these 2 guys being a part of that offense with Jimmy Garoppolo, who, again, studied under the greatest of all time. He studied under Tom Brady. So that type of synergy, if he can find it with that wide receiver core, again, that only makes them that much more dangerous in trying to defend that NFC title.
And what's going to be even more dangerous for Jimmy Garoppolo, and you said this earlier in the season. In fact, you said it before Week 17 when they went to Seattle and won the NFC West, which you and I both correctly predicted, by the way. We still don't know the ceiling of Jimmy Garoppolo because he's coming back from an absolutely horrific injury. And except for one game this year, late in the 4th quarter, and it was against Carolina, Jimmy Garoppolo took every single snap under center.
Yeah, he absolutely did. And you learned a lot about Jimmy's durability this year. And I think that, if you're a Niners fan, that really gives you a lot of, I guess the best way to, a lot of optimism in terms of what that means for this coming season. To me, that was one of the biggest question marks on Jimmy was, will he be durable enough to make it through an entire season? Unfortunately, and as much as I like Jimmy an awful lot, that was a question mark that I had. He really hadn't had an opportunity to prove that he could stay healthy. In the season where he took over for Tom Brady here in New England for a few games, he did end up missing the last 2 games because of injury. And a lot of people were wondering if injuries played into the fact that the Patriots chose to move on from Tom Brady and move on from Jimmy Garoppolo and keep Tom Brady at the time. Obviously, that ended up being the decision that was the right one for both teams. But with Jimmy this year showing that he can play a full 16-game season deep into the playoffs, play well into February, that's something that is a very encouraging sign. I think a lot of the growth that you're going to see in Jimmy this year is decision-making, maybe a little bit more poise in the pocket, maybe a little less reluctance to throw the football away. I think you're going to see a lot of that. Maybe I'm taking a few more sacks. These are types of things that you see quarterbacks develop as they start to come into their own. This is going to be a big year for Jim, and I think he's up to the challenge. I think he's up to the challenge also. And that 49er defense, you can't give them enough credit, even though it just seems like they ran out of gas, in the Super Bowl with Kansas City coming on like they did, and we both talked about them. But this San Francisco team, especially their defense, played way over their heads and out of their minds and got them to Miami. This defense is strong enough to get them to Tampa next year. And with the way this unit played, there were many questions going into the season, and you and I posed a lot of them on this program about how they will mesh together. I think we got our answer. We definitely did. And if there's one thing, if you're a Niners fan, that going into, and it's their ability to be able to make plays and shut teams down. For 3 quarters, they held the most prolific and the most productive quarterback really to look like an average mere mortal at times. And that's not an easy thing to do, not the way Mahomes played in this postseason. So when you look at what they can do with the front 7 of San Francisco, the linebacking core, and the way that the secondary has shown that they're capable of playing, this is a defense that is set to compete for a good number of years. If I'm the Niners, if I'm looking for any help, it probably would be in the secondary. I'd like to see them maybe beef up the safety position a little bit, get a little more depth at that position. I think that's something that can add a little more pop and a little more strength to their lineup. But that front 7 is an absolute monster. The 4-man rush that they put on in the Super Bowl was a thing of beauty to watch. It really was. And had the 49ers been able to make a couple of offensive plays, this could have been a different outcome, and we might have been having a parade in San Francisco rather than Kansas City a couple of weeks ago. But I wouldn't worry too much about the defense for the 49ers. I think they're poised to make another run and another deep run in the playoffs in 2020. And every other team's fan base in the NFC West has gotten a hold of me, and they're saying, "Oh, you guys got lucky." This ain't luck, folks. This is a team that grew up right before our eyes. And I go back to the conversation we had before the Super Bowl. In fact, Super Bowl week, someone asked me if you were to pick a game that identified the 49ers season, and I hate saying this to another fan base, which have become friends of mine. If you were to pick a game that identifies the 49ers season and how far over the curve they were, you got to look at that game in New Orleans. Absolutely. I think that really is the game that solidified their claim on the NFC. That's the game that I watched because I'd been high on New Orleans pretty much all season long. I'll be honest with you, New Orleans was my Super Bowl pick preseason in 2019. I predicted the New England Patriots, the New Orleans Saints Super Bowl. I thought they were going to face the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, but I believed that the New Orleans Saints were going to ride a hot hand in Drew Brees, and in my opinion, a pretty good defense to be able to get to that point. The 49ers being able to win, especially in the fashion that they won in a shootout, knowing that the defense was not going to be able to stop a prolific offense like the Saints, but they could match them point for point. To me, that proved any type of doubt that you had about the 49ers and their ability to score points. That game put that to rest. I looked at the 49ers in a whole new light after that. I had really become a believer all season long because of the information you had been giving me and, turning me on to this team and what they could do offensively. But this was at another level, and it really showed me that this was a championship caliber team. And from that point on, I looked at them as such, as they were the team to beat in the NFC, and they proved to be that. And after my first appearance in the preseason on Locked On Patriots, when we talked about if they're
are any teams that could unseat the Patriots. We briefly talked about if there are any teams that could surprise out of the NFC, and the first team that was in my head was San Francisco. And a lot of people thought I was crazy when I said that in August, But at the same time, as the season went on, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, eventually 8-0 before they lost their first game in a gutty effort against the Seattle Seahawks at Levi's Stadium. And remember, the first time the 49ers and the Seahawks hooked up, the 49ers were really beat up, and they were minus George Kittle, who was out for 2 games with a significant injury. They were minus Kyle Juszczyk, who was out with a significant injury. When the playoffs came around, the 49ers were healthy. That game in Seattle got them the rest they needed, and I think it gave the 49ers a lot of confidence going forward into 2020 that, yes, they can go into Seattle and beat them there just like they did the last Sunday in December.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the postseason, most of the postseason gave them the confidence that they need to propel forward. Look, when you beat teams that are supposed to beat you, it really is it's a big feather in your cap. Now, granted, San Francisco 49ers were the top dog. They knew that going into this postseason. However, there were still a lot of doubters. People looked at it, and I don't want to say that, and this is not how I feel in the least, but sometimes people will look at you as a paper number 1 seed or a de facto number 1 seed and someone that you feel, well, there are teams out there that are a little bit deeper, that have a little bit more pedigree, that have a little bit more experience, that can beat you in the postseason. That means nothing when you take a look at what these teams are capable of doing in the postseason. The hot teams are the ones that ride the strong play of their strongest unit, and the San Francisco 49ers did that. They rode their running game, they rode their defense all the way to the Super Bowl. They got I thought they got pretty decent production out of their passing game in the Super Bowl. I know a lot of people will probably fight me on that. I stand by it. I don't think they played as poorly as a lot of people are making that out to be. What you saw, again, were breakdowns in communication, I think breakdowns in some of the play calling, and just running into a defense in Kansas City that really played into its own at the best possible time. So they did run into a perfect storm in the Super Bowl, but again, the growth that they showed getting to that level, to me, really solidified their place in the NFL, and they walked away from that game knowing they could win it. That's a big key for a team that wants to build on a strong Super Bowl championship type year that the San Francisco 49ers had. They walked away from that game knowing that it could have been theirs. There's no worse feeling in the world than going to a game like that and coming away and saying we had absolutely no shot. When you know that you're close and you know that you have a shot, it only makes you that much more hungry to get back and to prove to everyone that year one was not a fluke. I believe that's exactly what you're going to see out of the San Francisco 49ers this year.
Which brings me to the Kansas City Chiefs, the world champions, their first since Super Bowl IV. And the way that they played in the second half of the season and in the second half of the Super Bowl. Hell, let's look at the second half of all 3 of their playoff wins. Down by 10-plus points, 3 separate games. Division round against Houston, AFC title against Tennessee, Super Bowl against San Francisco, and they were able to win all 3 by double digits. It just shows you the depth of the Kansas City Chiefs. Give them all the credit and all the praise in the world. They definitely earned this world championship.
Absolutely. A team that falls down double digits to teams like the Houston Texans, the Tennessee Titans, and the eventual NFC champion, the San Francisco 49ers, you fall down to that level. It's amazing that you're able to come back from one of those games, let alone all 3. It also goes to show you how prolific that offense can be once the pilot is lit. And that's exactly what Patrick Mahomes did. He turned it up exactly when he needed to do that. He got very good play from his wide receiver core. Can't say enough about Travis Kelce and the job that he's done in the postseason. And also Damian Williams, again, in the Super Bowl, I think played a tremendous game. So between those 3 factors, plus a defense that played a lot better than people gave it credit for all year long. I think the Kansas City defense was vastly underrated all season long. You talk about the job that Chris Jones did at the defensive tackle position. He was a huge force in being able to help contain the San Francisco running game just when the Kansas City Chiefs needed him to do that. Frank Clark stepped up very big. Tyrann Mathieu had a tremendous season, and I think was one of the real game changers when it came to the Kansas City defense this year. But the guy I give a ton of credit to is Steve Spagnuolo. He came in and changed that whole complexity, that whole attitude of Kansas City. He made them an aggressive defense. He made them a defense that was ball hawking. They went after it. They weren't afraid to pin their ears back, get after the quarterback. They didn't play it conservatively as they did in 2018. 2019 was all about putting the pedal to the metal and trying to beat teams at their own game. You saw the Kansas City Chiefs do that. They peaked at the right time, and that's why they were Super Bowl champions. And again, hats off to them because they had a tremendous postseason.
They absolutely had a tremendous postseason, and this will put a wrap up for us on the 2019 NFL season, and it'll also kick open the door to the NFL season for 2020. Of course, we're going to be covering it all off season. We'll begin with free agency, who goes where, and there are some very interesting names in free agency. When I have him back next week, I have some quarterback questions, but we'll save that for next week. He is Mike DeBake, the man in charge of Locked On Patriots on the Locked On Podcast Network, and one of the men in charge of Full Press Coverage. He joins me every week to talk NFL. Always a good time to have you on, my friend.
Always a pleasure to join you, my friend. 2019 was great. I wish it could have been a little bit happier of an ending for you, but if it's any consolation, I think 2020 might be just as bright, if not brighter, on the horizon. But I enjoyed covering the season with you this year. We put a wrap on it. On to 2020, buddy. Can't wait.
On to 2020, my friend. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Brian. Have a great day.
Speaking of putting a wrap, that'll put a wrap on this one, as I thank you for joining me for this edition of the program. I want you all to have a great day. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move, and always remember, if your dreams don't scare you, then they are not big enough. Dream big, do bigger. I am, and I hope you all are too. Until next time, Snowman out.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
I like him. He's silly.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the program. Please do not forget to follow us on our social media. The ID you need is SITM 9 to noon. That's SITM, the number 9, TONOON. And also, please do not forget to follow the brand new Snowman Digital Media. That's where all of my programs are housed and distributed across different networks. Speaking of shows, I had a chance to talk with the young man I have on the hotline right now. We shared some laughs, we shared some teams, and this is one half of NAN Sports Talk. This is Nolan Chislett, and he joins me right now. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good.
Where are you located?
I'm actually in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Ah, St. Petersburg. Is Tropicana Field that bad? Because I've heard some horrible stories about it. Talk to me about the Trop.
But you know what? I've only been to the Trop a couple times. I've actually never been to any other baseball field. So I couldn't actually tell you like what to relate it to, because I went to one like spring field over in like Lakeland, you know, when they were doing spring training. So I don't really have any real experience with with like that. But I guess you could say they could probably re-renovate it or something like that. That would be far off from that.
Because that catwalk gives up so many cheap home runs. You know, all you have to do is, if you're a good power hitter, i.e. Prince Fielder, all you got to do is swing for the catwalk a couple times, and you got a 2-homer game before you can blink. Tell me about the NAN podcast, because you briefly told me about it, and I become a fan of great podcasts, and I feel yours to be one. So tell me how that got started.
I appreciate it. So my name's Nolan. Obviously, my brother's name is Nick, so it stands for Nick and Nolan Sports Talk. You know what? It's really funny. A couple years ago, we were both unemployed, and I just hit him up one day. I was like, "Hey, do you want to start a podcast?" and that's how it started.
Oh, sweet! I love it.
So we've been doing that for a little over a year now. So this would be our second year doing it. So our first year doing it, we were doing it continuously. We did it for almost the whole NFL season. And then we kind of fell off a little bit, and we were like, we got a little burned out because we were commuting to each other to record the shows. We were doing it live.
Right.
So that was like a 3-hour commute every night that we decided to do it. And so after a while, we were just like getting busy and then things like that. So we put it on a little hiatus for a little bit. And then we picked it back up this year and started recording them, over like Skype and things of that nature.
Has it been easier? Has it been easier recording off Skype?
Yeah, easier. I think we've been kind of switching around to find out what our new home is going to be. So right now we're using Discord. We may keep using Discord. We may switch to something else. We're not exactly sure yet, but wherever.
So talk to me about Discord.
So Discord's more of a, I guess you could say it's kind of like a gaming chat platform. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it's more of a gaming chat platform, but you can have a server on there. You can, do, video recordings, so on and so forth. Okay. So the positive of it is that the sound quality usually comes back a little bit better, as well as, whenever we put out not a video, but whenever we take the audio file away, it typically is condensed into a smaller file.
Right.
The issue is that it doesn't have like a recording feature within the app. So one of us is just recording like the screen. And the issue comes with that is if one of us starts lagging, well, you just lost all that audio.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times in 6 years I've struggled with audio, but now I found a pretty good fit for my audio. I want to add video, but at the same time, I want to be sure that my video feed is on point, because when I was doing video earlier in the year, there were a couple of times it was lagging, and my wife would alert me that it was lagging. So I want to be sure I get a very good connection, And I'm with Nolan Chislett. We're talking shop about podcasts and about sports. Now, you informed me before we went on that you're a Cowboy fan.
Truthfully, yes.
How is the suffering among Cowboy fans? Because I know a few of them, and they're realists, okay? But they always have that one piece of hope that things would go well. So I want to take you back to Week 17 when you guys took care of the Redskins, but then you had to watch the scoreboard and see Philadelphia take care of the Giants. How much suffering is going on with Cowboy Nation right now? And not just right now, but within the whole Jason Garrett era.
Well, you know what? That suffering has ended. We're rejoicing. Jason Garrett not only got fired by us, but now he's going over to New York. Let me just explain to you what's going to happen. Real quick.
Okay.
This is all a good plan here. Jason Garrett's going over to the New York Giants. We're never going to lose to the Giants again. But on top of that, he's loyal to the Cowboys. So he's going to beat the snot out of the Eagles every year. So now we're going to make the playoffs for at least a good 8 years running. You know what I'm saying? So I think we got a good chance.
You do realize there's a movie called Any Given Sunday. You do realize that, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yes, you realize there's a saying called any given Sunday. You do. I told this man I'd pick on him while on the air, but people have picked on me for the past 5 years because my team has been the 49ers. And I miss the days when the Cowboys and the 49ers would hook up for an NFC championship game, because those were some epic games.
For sure.
Now, you have a basketball team that you follow?
You know, I don't follow it like you know, because my thing is I'm a simple guy. So 17 games a year, that's doable. And then when you start getting into like the 80s and stuff like that, I am a true fan when it comes to basketball, because I am a huge Orlando Magic fan.
Okay.
But I like to usually wait till later in the season before I start like watching more and more games.
Understood.
Because it's really hard to follow.
So were you around when they first came into the league in '89?
I wasn't even born yet.
Oh my goodness. So you've basically been around since they opened the Amway Center, or the
probably
tail end of Amway Arena. So do you follow football the most?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm all through and through.
So now I get to tease you again and say, how about those 49ers?
Oh man, it's going to be really rough though. I mean, they're going to lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So,
no, they're not.
I mean, I don't know. It'll all you know, follow through with itself.
You realize Frisco ain't losing to the Chiefs, not with that defense.
I don't know, man. Chiefs can score 5 different ways. So if they come out and they play a full game,
and we'll stop them 6 different ways. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to see. Of the sporting events you've attended in person, which one was your favorite? Or favorites? Let me go ahead and pluralize that word. Favorites.
I love going to hockey events live.
Oh, nice.
That's probably. I think hockey's probably by far my favorite to go to watch live.
You got a team that you follow?
The Lightning, baby.
So now I get to tease you again and say, remember 2015.
But I could also say, remember 2004, but that's fine.
True. This is true. This is true. Lightning did win in 2004. It took until the final excruciating seconds, and I will selfishly say I do have a copy of that radio call, which was very exciting to me. So what made you get into sportscasting? What took you down the road to get into sportscasting?
Well, I've always been an athlete for a majority of my life, so I've always been into sports. I actually went on to play college football at a small school up in Northwest Georgia.
Okay.
So I've always had like a pretty analytical outlook of a lot of sports, so on and so forth. And overall, it's just I find sports to be just super entertaining. So it's just one of those things where I enjoy the camaraderie, however you said that word, of just being able to enjoy such an event. You know what I'm saying? And just be able to hang out and watch people beat the snot out of each other too. So that's cool.
Have you ever had a moment on air where a word slipped out that shouldn't have?
Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago.
What happened? Talk to me about it. What happened?
So, we were trying to prep ourselves for, going on radio and everything like that. And of course, the one word was, don't drop any more F-bombs. So,
oh, no.
Basically, the context of it was we were talking about baseball. We were talking about how the Astros were caught cheating.
Yes.
With the whole trash can incident. And so my question was because I don't really follow baseball that much. I'm not actually a big baseball fan.
All right.
So I asked Nick, I said, well, listen, how bad are these guys beating everybody? Because if it's like, maybe if it's only by like a run or two, okay, well, maybe it didn't make that big of a difference, right? Or maybe if it, was more than that, So when I said it though, it was like, I said, well, maybe it's not that big of an effing difference or something like that. And I was like, ooh. And I literally just said right then and there, make sure you edit that out. Well, the problem came was whenever all of our audio was uploaded, we couldn't find it again.
Oh no! Oh no!
So it got the F-bomb being dropped on there, plus the part where I go, "Hey, edit that out," and then I just kept going.
And you kept the tape rolling.
Yeah, we just gotta double down, man. That's my rule for life. You gotta double down.
Here's one. When I was at Chicago State University, I was selected to play the part of the Shadow. We were doing an old school radio program, and I was picked to voice the main character. Well, it got to the final read, and I've never told this story on the show. I've only told like certain people within my circle. It got to the final read. It got to the final read, and I'm up there. I'm rehearsing, and it came to my line, and the line was "Beasts of Prey." Well, I kind of misread it, and the word breasts came out, and I had the whole class in an uproar. And I didn't realize what I said until my professor pointed it out to me after he stopped crying from laughing.
I get that. I've been there before. I was in a Bible class when I was young, and I was at a Bible camp or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And we were reading Songs of Solomon. I don't know if you were familiar with the Bible, but Songs of Solomon is pretty spicy.
Oh no!
Yeah. Well, I saw pomegranate, and I read pornographic instead. I don't know why I did it. I just kind of glanced at it, and I was like, "Her hair smells like pornographic." And then everybody just looked at me like, "Dude, what did you just say?"
Oh, here's one. I was doing a basketball game up in Chicago. I was doing the Proviso West tournament, and I got there late. My broadcast partner had already set everything up, and the first game we're doing goes to double overtime. And the phrase I commonly use when I do basketball is "eat some clock." Well, my partner, yeah, you know where this is going. Well, my partner wanted to express the same thing, and it was his very first call on the air. And he wanted to say, "eat some clock," and the L in clock came up missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I busted out laughing. We're live on the air now. I busted out laughing. The poor guy was so embarrassed, and I know how he feels. He starts laughing. As soon as the game's over, he drops his headset, and I pulled him aside and I consoled him. I said, "Look, it's okay. It's okay. We got 7 more games for the day," and he's gone. He's just cracking up laughing. I'm laughing with him, and he looked at me all of a sudden, and he's so embarrassed, and he goes, "I did not mean for that to slip up in front of you." I looked at this young man and I said, "Do you know how many times I've slipped on the air, especially live?" And the whole crew starts laughing.
That's hilarious.
The whole crew starts laughing. Nolan Chislett and I sharing stories about messing up on the air, and this is a real good one. I did a football game in Chicago in Gately Stadium, and there was no heat inside the press box. And we go to double overtime in that game, and I'm shivering. I have only my winter coat with me. There's no blanket. There's no heater. And I thought we had gone to a break. And I said, "Will somebody please bring a blanking heater in here?" And I didn't realize we were still on.
Oh, man. You know, I feel like it's more understandable at that point, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, someone hears that and is like, "I bet it's really cold right there."
Yeah, yeah. One of the parents stopped me later, and she was laughing. She says, "Did you really say what you said about the heater?" And I didn't realize until she brought it up to me, and I said, "I am cold, and I'm going to my car. I'm freezing." So, give me your thoughts on this year's NFL playoffs.
Exciting, man. I mean, you know, I love it. I love seeing when like underdog teams come out, and you know, AFC wise, this is the first year the AFC Championship hasn't had Brady, Manning, or who's the other one? Brady, Manning, or
Roethlisberger.
Yeah, Roethlisberger for like the first time in like 20 years or something crazy like that. So I love that. You know, I love seeing the fact that the Titans came in at like 9-7 and they made a run, and you know the Chiefs. You know, my brother's actually a huge Chiefs fan, and you know, for him, I remember about like week 5, week 6 after like Mahomes got hurt, he was at a point where he was just like, all right, we'll just throw the whole season away at this point.
Yeah.
Now look at him. You know what I'm saying? So.
Well, I had the same thoughts about the Chiefs. I thought their season was done, and Mahomes but Matt Moore keeps the ship steady. Mahomes comes back, and they're in the Super Bowl. So they're playing some fantastic football right now. On the other side, I said in April, and I more said it out of heart than anything else, that the 49ers were going to the Super Bowl. Do you know how many people thought I was nuts when I said that?
What was the 49ers record at the end of last year? It wasn't too.
They were 4-12.
Oof.
And now they're 13-3. And I'll never forget, I watched a program on NFL Network where they were predicting the 49ers record. They said 3-13.
I remember that. So I assume you probably predicted the season and everything. What was your biggest fail this year on who you predicted to be good and was bad?
Actually, I have two. One being the Chicago Bears, and the other, strangely enough, being the Dallas Cowboys. I didn't think the Cowboys had enough defensively to carry them to another double-digit win season. And they kept getting burned, especially in the secondary. So the secondary is going to be an issue for them. What about you? What do you think was the biggest failure this year?
I had the Detroit Lions winning the NFC North.
Really?
Because I saw a lot of potential there. I mean, they did pretty well last year.
Right.
They had pretty much the same team coming into this year, and the next, oh boy.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because they had a chance. They were pretty much like a play or two away from being like 4-0 at the beginning of the season.
True. And
then next thing you know, I mean, from there, I mean, it just went downhill.
They did. And it's so sad that they went downhill. Do you think the Lions move on from Matt Stafford, or do they try again with him next year?
You know, I really just don't think it's Matt Stafford. I think it's a lot more than that, you know.
So what's missing for them? What's missing for them offensively, you think?
Management.
You know what? That's what I say. That management needs to change.
Calvin Johnson came out and said that he was kind of talking about it and everything. He said that one of the times he was there, the general manager was just like a friend of the coach or of the owner or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The guy had no previous experience, and they just like threw him in there. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? Detroit Lions football literally resembles like the city of Detroit when it comes to like,
it's true.
You know, the personal interest aspect. It's like, that's crazy.
And the Lions fans are like Knick fans in so many ways because they're so apathetic about their team. It's like, whatever. And the management doesn't see that. And that's sad.
Yeah, it is. Definitely is. I mean, they're definitely one of those teams that needs to make it to the Super Bowl and win.
Yeah, getting there is one thing. Winning is another. But first, the Lions have to get there. They haven't appeared in an NFC Championship game since, I want to get this right, 1991, when they lost to the Washington Redskins. So they got a lot of humps to clear before they even think about a Super Bowl. Nolan Chislett joining me here on the program, talking all things sports bloopers that he and I have done, and the NAN Sports Talk podcast. Tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
nansportstalk.libsyn, that's LIBSYN.com. You can find us on Facebook, NAN Sports Talk, Instagram, Twitter. We even got a TikTok.
Someone suggested that I do a TikTok for my show. I just may follow that suggestion. Nolan Chislett joining me. Thanks a lot, my friend.
No, thank you.
More coming up after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
All right, folks. Now that we got all that out of the way, let me welcome that man in charge of Cole Sports to the program. This is Cole Johnson, and he joins me right now. How are you, sir?
Well, doing good. Doing good. How are you?
Aside of getting over a cold, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. All right, let's
yeah, I know the feeling.
Let's just dive right into this. I opened my show with my take on the All-Star Game and the format within, and I know I'm going to get a lot more pushback about me being old school. I know that. I understand that, and I don't care. Who the hell designed this All-Star Game format?
Well,
let's just start there.
Well, if you will remember, I'll let you get your question out.
You know how I think way too well. I mean, I understand wanting to bring an audience back to see the All-Star Game, because let's be honest, it ain't been since 2003 when you know who wore the original 23 and was in the All-Star Game. And I understand the death of Kobe. I get it. Trust me, I get it. Now, I understand one side wearing 2 in honor of his daughter Gianna, and one side wearing 24, his final number in the league. That kind of pissed me off because no one honored number 8, his first number in the league. I mean, some of the players could have worn number 8, but I understand why they did what they did. I get that. But who in the Vita Blue, yellow-bellied, red-blooded hell came up with this format?
Well, for those who looked at, when you said when the All-Star Game was basically the All-Star Game, circa 2003, versus what we see now, 17 years later, there was something called having team captains from each conference, and they can select whomever they want, and that was established in, I think it was 2017, I think. After it was some consternation that, the West is dominating the NBA and the East absolutely suck it. Whatever team might be lucky, whichever team LeBron's on, and then everybody else.
Oh, you remember
that argument? So they thought it was a talent disparity. Yes, I remember it vividly. They thought it was a talent disparity between the West and the East, so they figured to make it competitively more balanced, they decided to make it a glorified pickup game.
And that's all.
That's why you have, And so that's what has resulted. So they tried this out for a couple of years. They still do it now. In fact, the All-Star teams that were selected was similarly selected as the 2 previous years. But what they discovered was these teams were scoring almost 400 points total. So it was like no defense whatsoever. None of which to speak.
None.
So it's like, okay, we have to make this interesting. So they come up with this system where if the team captain's team wins a quarter, that team captain gets $100,000 donated to the charity of their choice. So that's why you saw in the first, second, and third quarters, it acted as though it was a regular game that started in the first quarter because you saw they did 3 tip-offs.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
And then if that wasn't enough, then they decided to say, let's spice it up just a little bit more. You know that wonderful league that Ice Cube has with those who were playing basketball, they're not retired, but they still have a little bit of juice in them.
Yes.
Yeah, it's called the Big Three.
Yes.
Yeah, you know how the Big Three is. First team to 50 wins the game. You don't have a clock.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the fourth quarter. So they decided on a point total, and it was the first team to that point total wins. And last night's point total was 157. So you have that as your all-star game format. And to a person like me, I totally abhor it because it should be, and I don't give a crap if I'm considered old school. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
Thank you.
The check is in the mail. It should be between the East and the West.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
And it should not differ from that. Now, if they want to tweak with how they do what they do within the game, okay. But in terms of who gets on the court, it should be East versus West. It should not be whomever is the team captain on one end versus whomever is the team captain on the other end. No. And to me, it's not even working because you got LeBron, who basically is handpicking the best of the best, because you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is a principled man, is picking every African player that's in the NBA first.
Yeah.
So how is this working?
How is this fair?
How is this working?
How is this working? Number one, and number two, how is this fair? You know, and I absolutely abhor this format. I hate it. I absolutely abhor this format for the same reasons you outlined, and you and I have spoken about this many times over. It should be East versus West, period. That's part one. Part two, you don't reset the score to 0-0 and have a jump ball. I understand if you want to keep them giving the team captains $100,000 toward their charity, I can live with that. I absolutely love that. I love that idea. Yeah. But keep the running score, will you please? Keep the running score, because how the hell is somebody that's walking into the second quarter know that it's the second quarter starting and not the first quarter because you have a jump ball at the first 3 quarters of the All-Star game? I hate that. And on top of that, I mean, a free throw to end the game? Really?
Yeah.
And the kicker was the fourth quarter is an untimed quarter. Why is that?
Exactly. Like I said, the popularity, you had to give props to Ice Cube and the Big Three, and I do. That league is catching fire.
It is.
Yeah, that league is catching fire, and it's a great league. It's a wonderful league. But that's a purpose. That serves a purpose. I'm with that.
Yes.
Because one, you have a point total where they get to, which it's fine. You know, okay, so they play half court, and I think the first team 25 determines halftime. First team to 50 wins. I'm good with that.
Yes.
I'm good with that. But for the NBA to adopt this in any way, shape, form, fashion, whether it is exhibition, All-Star game, regular season, or the playoffs, no. They're supposed to be the best of the best for a reason. why is it that they have to spice up or season up the product that is currently presented to us?
Because the product that's currently presented to us ain't all of that.
Say it again for the cheap seats, please.
For those of you in the cheap seats at the old Summit or at the old Chicago Stadium, and I said this at the top of the show, the current product in the NBA ain't all of that. End of story. I've gotten a ton of pushback from the folks at work, and for those of you who know, my wife and I go to work early in the morning, then we come back and I hop on and do this show. I've said for years that the product has suffered. It has suffered. And it's suffering this year because, well, I hate to say it again, and you've said it with me on this program, no Splash Brothers.
I will continue to say this. Whether people love it or not, and they'll claim that they don't because it's their team that's not successful.
Exactly.
Any team that has a dynastic run, it is best for the NBA. I don't care who it is, because you gotta have the boogeyman that people want to root against.
Yep.
And you gotta have the team that well, people may not follow the sport before the rise of this team, but they see this wonderful team and they connect to them for some odd reason, and they have more fans than they did before their run became national or international, and you have more haters.
Yes.
Because who hated the Warriors before 2015? Nobody hated the Warriors before 2015.
Nobody knew who the hell they were until they came out of absolutely nowhere in 2015. I mean, they got to the second round in 2013 against the Spurs, and the Spurs beat them in 6 games. They go all 7 against the Clippers in 2014, and then 2015 in the first round, and then 2015 happened, and they run the table. And then all of a sudden, after 2015, and I'm going to get in 2016 here in a moment, and then all of a sudden, after 2015, the haters come out saying, how could they be this good that fast? They weren't due for another couple of years. Well, then the next year, they reached the NBA World Championship Series, 3-1 series lead, and everybody wants to bring up how the Warriors choked a 3-1 lead. Newsflash, there was a hand in this as Adam Silver.
Flag on the play. Flag on the play.
Uh-oh.
You mean to tell me someone? You mean to tell me some? All right, I'll say it. You mean to tell me some idiot said to you that the Warriors out of nowhere just became a prominent team? So they just lost the all sorts of mind and fact that the leader of the team, even as we speak, was drafted in 2009. So we're just going to coat all that and just forget it?
Yep.
2009.
To the people that
2009.
To the people that have pushed back against that theory that I just outlined for 2016, I get this pushback, and I know you've gotten this. Oh, there was no conspiracy. Cleveland was just better the last 3 games. Baloney. I ain't buying it.
Look, whether you want to believe in the conspiracy or not, the NBA fouled up suspending Draymond Green.
Yes,
I mean
they did.
He actually did do a flagrant foul, which should have earned him a suspension the series prior.
Yes.
And he did not do a flagrant foul in the series that he gets the 1-game suspension from because he piled up too many flagrant fouls.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you want to say it's conspiracy or not, that's just wrong. Period.
It is.
But for anybody, I don't care if you follow the sport or if you don't, for anybody to say that the Warriors just came, wham, you snap your fingers out of the blue, they actually became contenders and champs. I mean, they were building this up since 2009.
Yes.
2009, Stephon Curry. 2011, Klay Thompson. 2012, Draymond Green. I mean, this was not an overnight success story.
But people seem to think it is.
And they took their lumps to the playoffs after that. So I'm like, no, this was not an overnight success story.
And they still seem to think it's an overnight success story because had the Warriors not made the move to get one Andre Iguodala, who shut down LeBron in 2015, a person who is very underrated in my opinion, if they don't make that move, where are they now? They absolutely needed to get someone to really move them forward. And as much as I like to say that was Kevin Durant, that person was Andre Iguodala.
Durant didn't really move them farther. It basically just secured them at least 2 rings, in my opinion.
Yes.
It could have secured them 3, but he got injured.
Yes.
But it secured it for him. I wouldn't say that they would. I would stop short in saying that they would not have wanted sans Durant. I would probably argue you may have an argument 2018 with the Rockets, but we saw what happened, what they did without Durant in 2019.
Exactly.
So we could basically just erase that out of the equation. So when you have a team like the Warriors, and you've had teams before them do it's the exact same formula. Build a team up through the draft, maybe find a couple of role players here and there from free agency and trades, and then you build your team, and then you got your nucleus. Then you establish success, and then you get championship success. You want to keep that, so then you add pieces. Sometimes you look for those pieces, and in the cases of DeMarcus Cousins and Kevin Durant, sometimes those pieces come looking for you.
And this is what
this
is what people don't understand.
What's a team like a Warriors supposed to do? Just like Kevin Durant comes to you and says, "Yeah, I want to play for you." But competitive balances, no, you don't need to join the team. Get out of here. You know how ridiculous that sounds?
You know what? I said after 2016, after the Warriors lost the championship, and I gave my conspiracy theory the next day on the air, and free agency was looming, the first statement I said during that program was that Kevin Durant will wind up in the Bay. 99% of the people who heard me make that statement thought I was absolutely stupid. And 99% of those 99% thought he would stay in Oklahoma City. And the reason I gave that he would not stay in OKC is named Russell Westbrook.
War number 0, yeah.
The exact reason I gave was Russell Westbrook. I said Kevin Durant wants to win. Russell Westbrook wants to pad stats. Okay? There's a huge difference between winning and stat padding. And Russell Westbrook was stat padding during the 2016 Western Conference Finals. Because if he was not stat padding during the Western Finals, they'd have closed them out in Oakland.
And should have.
Absolutely.
They should have closed them out Game 5 in Oakland. But that team was not mature enough to do it.
They weren't built for it.
To be straight up and honest, they weren't mature enough to do it. They weren't built enough, and they weren't mature enough to do it.
And Billy Donovan,
they were talented enough to do it, but they were not mature enough.
They absolutely were talented enough to do it. And Billy Donovan didn't know what to do with Russell Westbrook. Are you kidding me?
Right.
I mean, you want to praise everybody wants to praise Russell Westbrook. Oh, Westbrook goes 100 miles an hour. Yeah, here's the problem. By the time the fourth quarter gets here, he's gassed. We've seen it the last 4 years.
Oh, and true to your statement about Westbrook. I mean, the last 3 years, triple-double for the season. So,
you know the back end of that coin.
He won MVP. So there you go.
You know the back end of that coin. Triple-double, first round.
Each year. 2 times in 5 games, 1 game, 1 year in 6.
Yep.
And to me, when you have a guy who I think he spoke a little out of turn when he criticized LeBron James in his move in 2010.
Yep.
I think the rant felt okay. Well, yeah, I get how you can boogie on teams, you can get your points, you can have your MVPs, but man, just hearing it from fans and hearing from organizations and hearing it from people who vote for Hall of Fame, even if it is called basketball Hall of Fame, not pro basketball, not NBA,
right?
But even considering that, the rings do matter, and when you have that mentality, you have someone like a Kevin Durant. It's like, you know what? Forget that I could score 28 points. I could do that blindfolded. I don't want to do 28 points and 10 rebounds or 9 rebounds. No, I mean, if I could do 25 or even less than that, but I get rings, I'll be happier.
You know who said that
now he has
same
two of
thing?
Them things.
You know who said that? You know who said that? Stephen Curry said the exact same thing, because he's been their leading scorer until Kevin Durant arrived, and Stephen Curry said, if I could take a few less shots and we still win, I'm good.
Now, let's look at Curry. The year he won the MVP, the first unanimous MVP winner, I may add.
Yes, sir.
The league has been in existence now 73 years. He's been the first and the only unanimous winner for the MVP.
Yep.
He scored 30 points. He averaged 30 points that year.
Yes, he
30
did.
points. You don't think that he wouldn't mind taking shots that he could take? No, he wouldn't mind doing that. But if there's someone who could take that load off, he's smart enough and he's unselfish enough to say, you know what? Okay. Yeah, bring your shots. I will shave some of mine. And if necessary, I'll come up and contribute. Until then, cool, come on. Because all I want is championships. I could give a crap about MVPs. I got them.
Oh, not to mention,
I got two
folks,
of them now.
that same unanimous.
Come on.
Right. Not to mention, folks, that same unanimous MVP 2015-2016 only hit, 402 3-pointers that season, an NBA record.
That is ridiculous.
402.
Not attempted, made. The fact he made that many.
Yes. 400 3-pointers made. And then they welcomed Kevin Durant with open arms, and they were off to the races. And everybody in Cleveland resting on their laurels. I hate to say this, Cavalier fan, but listen to a Snowman carefully and listen to Cole Johnson carefully. Y'all rested on y'all laurels. The Warriors got a little pissed off.
Here's the danger of doing exactly what you have just accused, and I say rightfully so, the Cavaliers circa summer 2016 are doing. So they get their championship. It's the first professional sports championship Cleveland has had in 51 and a half years. So they have this championship. They feel as though they have the best player in the world at the time. I'm not going to say that they're wrong, but there comes a time where you could say that and not exude it. There's a team in the same region that had success exactly 2 decades prior. I forget the team. It's like they border Lake Michigan. I think they're the third largest city in the country. They have the Sears Tower in there.
That would be
Soldier Field, Chicago Stadium, United Center. What's that city? I can't remember.
I believe that city is Chicago, my hometown.
They knew they had the best player at the time on their team. But did they rest their laurels? No. What did they do? They saw, okay, so Horace Grant bounced. Let's see how we replace him. Oh, Dennis Rodman.
Yep.
and you thought Scottie Pippen, even Michael Jordan would like, yeah, we'll take him with open arms. No, they were like, Jordan was like, if he can help us win, cool. Scottie felt the same way, but Scottie was a little more honest. He's like, I really don't want this fool on the team, but look, if he's going to help us win, I'm cool with it.
Yep.
I mean, they didn't rest. It's like, okay, we got the number one man on our team, but let's see if we can build on this and make this train last as long as possible. The Cavaliers in 2016 thought that was it. And we got our team, Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. Those will help out LeBron, and then we don't really give a crap about the role players. We don't need any role players. We're good to go as is. And then they got summarily stomped the next 2 years in the finals.
Listen,
so I mean, they were happy. They were happy to be the Eastern Conference champs. But then when it got to June, they just simply were no contest for the better, more stacked team. And yeah, I will say the Warriors were more stacked. But you know what I will also say? Look at your history. Go all the way back to the early 80s.
Yep.
Name me a team that was dynastic which wasn't stacked.
I can't name you one.
I can't name me one either. Every team that was from 1980 to now that decided to make a run, they stacked their team.
Yeah,
and it was to the point of we want to not just win, we want to stay champs. And you know what you got to do, however many other teams is in the league? Find your pieces. If you got to stack your team up too and beat us.
Yep.
And if you can't, shut up and take it whooping like a man.
It's what Michael Jordan said. It's what Michael Jordan said after 1997, and he repeated it in 1998. Quote, "We are entitled to defend what we have until we lose it. Period." Again, we are entitled to defend what we have until we lose it. That was Michael Jordan who said that. It wasn't LeBron who said that. It wasn't James Harden who said that. It wasn't Russell Westbrook who said that. Michael Jordan said that and said it proudly. Okay?
And he said it correctly.
Which brings me to this farce of an all-star game. And I have said it all day. All the folks at work were coming up to me going, "Man, Snowman, did you see the all-star game?" And I looked at them and I said, "Nope." And their mouths dropped. And they're going, "Why? Did you not see that?" No. The all-star game is a farce. And it's been a farce for a while. It became a farce when it moved from me. The first point it really became a farce when it moved from national television to cable.
TNT.
And that, of course, was 2003.
Yep. How ironic.
That's when it became
the very
a
last
farce.
Michael Jordan All-Star game appearance.
The last one. The last one where MJ participated. The last one. And it's been a farce since then. Look at the team introduction since then.
And here's the thing: you now have a generation who sees the All-Star game on cable. Now, when we came up, when we were adults, it was on NBC. But when we came up, it was on CBS.
Yep.
CBS Sunday afternoon. That was must-see viewing for people like us. And we got a chance to see our best, the best in the NBA, go at it. And it was on a huge national stage. And it was one of the big must-see events of the year for the NBA.
Yes, indeed.
But now it is reduced to a sideshow because for me, and it's not, I really do not believe it's because I'm older. It's just because, like you said, the product is different and not always better. It's to the point where I could bypass the whole doggone weekend if I wanted to, and I know I wouldn't miss anything. And that's not what I want to say about anything NBA, but that's exactly what I think, and that's exactly what I have thought the last few years. Now, I'll admit this year, at least Saturday, was a little more interesting, but that has been the exception rather than the norm. When we were teenagers, when we were in high school, that was the norm. NBA All-Star Saturday was lit.
It was.
And the All-Star game was just as lit the next day.
You know what? The year that I keep coming back to that, really highlighted the All-Star game for me was 1988. Why? A, Chicago Stadium. B, the slam dunk contest between Dominique Wilkins and Michael Jordan. C,
that's one of all time.
The 3-point contest where Larry Bird extended his index finger and it was at center court before the ball dropped in the bucket. And I'm bringing this up and my wife's looking at me with a big old smile on her face as she's turning the dials for this program. And And she just said, keep bringing them back. Keep bringing them back. Look. Aside of the Splash Brothers, we had shooters back in our day. Larry Bird, Reggie Miller, Dale Ellis.
I mean, just think about this. Bird, as much trash as he talked, that dude didn't get out of his warm-ups.
Nope.
He still had his warm-ups
on, and by the time he got to that last shot, and it was Bob Neal who did the call on TBS. Soon as I heard Bob Neal say "for the money" and Larry Bird put his finger up and walked towards center court, and then you heard it rattle
I knew it was
in.
going into.
Yep. How can you not?
Before winning, I knew it was going into. I was like, "Doggone, this man actually did it." And then what makes it even better, the stories you heard afterwards that the players told about Bird when they said, "Yeah, he came into the locker room and he actually said to us, quote,
go for
who is going to be shooting for second place." Because you know that trophy's coming home with me. Close quote. I mean, oh, God. I was like, that's brutal.
You know what? There's a Converse commercial that featured Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Mark Aguirre, Bernard King, and Larry Bird. Okay? And all I had to hear Larry Bird say was, "You already know what they did for me." What? And he holds up a trophy. I walked away with the MVP. I walked away from that TV and I said, damn it, he did it again. But
before we even called it mic drop, that's exactly what he did in that commercial.
Yep.
That's a doggone shame.
Yep, and one of his teammates, Kevin McHale, was in that commercial. You know he had to be laughing after they produced that thing.
Oh, yeah.
But
in
terms of the All-Star game up to 2020, and it sickens me. And I said this earlier in the program. It sickens me. And I'm going to get a lot of pushback for it, but bring it on. It sickens me that my hometown hosted that. And there was no soul. Aside of the tributes to Kobe. Aside of the tributes to Kobe, there was no soul this All-Star weekend. And to think, Chicago hosted one of the greatest All-Star weekends in 1988.
Well, you know the youngins are probably going to push back on you and say, well, what are you talking about no soul? You had Common who performed. You had Shaka Khan who did the national anthem. I mean, you had Chi-Town stand up.
You know something?
This was a big time for Chicago.
I met Common before he became Common at Chicago State University. Outstanding brother. Okay?
Love the brother.
But the baseball fan in me, and I know I'm going to mention an old name, and I know y'all will appreciate this name. I will take the late great Lou Rawls doing the national anthem before Game 2 of the 2005 World Series between your Astros and my White Sox before some of these musical performances I've seen in the past for the All-Star game.
You'll never find another love like mine. Yeah, I love Lou Rawls.
Can I get a witness here? I'll take Lou Rawls doing the national anthem before a Chicago game. He defined Chicago, born and bred, a Southsider born and bred. Okay? Like I said, I knew Common before he became Common, and he is absolutely outstanding. And he lives and breathes Chicago. Okay? But at the same time, after the music stopped and the game started, everything else stopped. Am I wrong for saying that? But this is how I feel. I saw 1988. I saw the roof come off the Chicago Stadium after MJ not once but twice leapt from the free throw line. and smashed one down. Both of them got 50s, and both of them got him the slam dunk championship. Oh, and by the way, folks, you seem to forget, who was the MVP of the 88 All-Star Game? Michael Jordan.
Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Like I said, I consider the 1988 All-Star Game the Michael Jordan Showcase, because that to me was the first, in my opinion, outside of commercials, that to me was the first time we all got a chance to see Michael Jordan amongst a room full of his peers.
Yes.
The guy.
Yes.
That was the event that made him the guy.
Mm-hmm.
No question about that. Not saying that he didn't do anything spectacular for it, because look,
right,
almost 2 years before he put 63 on
in
Bird
Boston,
in the Garden,
in Boston.
So it's not that in Boston. So it's not that he didn't do anything spectacular before then,
right? But
that was the first big time showcase he had, and yeah, he won a slam dunk contest. You'll love this. In '87.
Yes.
And I think that one was in
Seattle. Seattle.
That the 1988 version of the All-Star Game, that to me was the Michael Jordan coming out party. Because that to me was like, okay, you still had Bird in his prime, still had Magic in his prime. You had Isaiah about to get into his prime.
Yep.
And of course, each of those teams were the three teams to beat: the Pistons, Lakers, and Celtics.
Yep.
But this was an announcement to the whole basketball world that, oh, this number 23 from Chicago? Oh, so he's more than just a pitch man and a dunk guy.
Yep.
Oh, he actually can play.
It was the announcement. We got to look out for this dude. It was the announcement of, here come the Chicago Bulls. Here comes Michael and the Chicago Bulls. That All-Star Game, 1988.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's why I always say that particular weekend in that game in particular, that was a trumpet sounding saying, yeah, there's a new sheriff in town. His name is Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And if you're not ready for it, you're going to get steamrolled by him. And 3 years later, the steamroll began.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what the All-Star Game is supposed to provide. It's supposed to provide those moments.
Yes.
That 1988 is that. 1991, when Magic Johnson came back and he announced that he was HIV positive in November. Then 3 months later, he comes back, not playing a single game in the NBA, and he just wows the crowd and just dominates the whole game.
And was correctly named the All-Star MVP. That was in Orlando.
MVP in that game.
That was in Orlando.
That was in Orlando.
That was in Orlando, Florida. Now, I understand. I'll say it again, folks. I'm gonna try not to sound callous, but I'm also gonna throw some truth out here. Also, I understand why they named the All-Star Game MVP after Kobe Bryant. I get it. But I think Magic should have been named for that award first for his 1992 performance.
I would look. I'm a bigger Magic fan than I am Kobe. I will cop to that. Weeks posthumously after Kobe's passing, I will still say I'm a Magic Johnson fan before I'm a Kobe Bryant one.
Mm-hmm.
And it has nothing to do with what Kobe did off the court. It has everything to do with on the court.
Right.
And even with that, and yeah, it would have been a magical moment if they did that. But yeah, I'm with you. I get why they now call the All-Star MVP the Kobe Bryant Award. And it was more than just because this is a posthumous honor. I mean, because the only other player that's won that award in particular as many times as he did, and people are surprised when I say it's not Jordan, it's not Kareem, it's not Magic, it's not Bird, it's Jerry West.
Jerry West
and Kobe Bryant. Those are two guys that have won that award the most out of every other player in the league.
4 times.
In the history of the game.
4 times.
So I get why they named that award. So I'm like, okay. And for that reason alone, I'm like, I'm not gonna push back on that.
No.
Like, okay, so yeah, give him that award.
I get that. Yeah.
I would say give Magic another one. That's why I don't push back on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. And that's understandable. And again, I'm not going to be totally callous. I understand why they named it after Kobe. All right. Yeah. I think Kobe would have enjoyed this version of the All-Star Game. I know. As a matter of fact, I know he would have. But at the same time, the competitor in him would have roared. Okay? The competitor,
I don't think he would like that, yeah.
The competitor in him would have pushed all the way back against starting each quarter with a jump ball and at 0-0. That's when people like Kobe and MJ and Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson and Larry Bird look at the scoreboard, go, "Oh, we're down 18. We can come back and get this."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they take that as a challenge.
All the time.
That's just how they were. Long before they were pros, that's how they were. That's how they were wired.
Exactly. That's exactly how they were wired. And the slam dunk contest, my God.
Let's get into it.
Let's
get into that.
Let's get into it. Okay? I will admit that, you know what? You and I had a broad-sexual conversation off the air. And I'm going to bring it up on this program. I'm going to bring it up on this program, and I'm going to do it right now. There's a friend of mine who was a big-time broad-sexual. And he said something to me that, for lack of better terms, got on my nerve. When he said, and I quote, Derrick Jones Jr. will have a better slam dunk contest and have more impact than Michael Jordan. Close quote. In 4 words, ladies and gentlemen, that pissed me off.
I only have, before I continue in words, I only have one thing to exhibit with that statement. Oh, Lord.
I knew you would get a kick out of that. I knew you'd get a kick out of that.
Oh, Lord. This fool almost made me cough a lung. Not you. Your friend. Oh, my gosh.
He nearly made me cough up a lung, and I was half asleep. I start laughing. I inadvertently woke up my wife, and she said, "What happened?" I'll explain later. I explained it. Listen, the next day we're getting ready for work. I explained, and she says, "All right, you got to tell me why you were laughing so hard you woke me up." I told her. She looked at me and walked off.
That's even better.
She said, "Let's go to work after that." She said, "Let's go to work after that ridiculousness."
Oh man. Let's see. Well, I live in the southern states. So do you and your wonderful wife. So mm-hmm. I think you and the missus will know the following words and why I'm saying it. But they have a saying in the South, and that will be "bless his heart." And here's why I say bless his heart. Derrick Jones Jr. What anything has this guy has done anything that was significant? What's significant? Anything he's done? And don't give me he just won a slam dunk contest Saturday. Don't give me that. I said anything significant, like lead his team in scoring, like lead him to a playoff series victory. I'm not even talking about winning a ring. Just that. He hasn't done.
He hasn't done a thing.
Well, Jeffrey Jordan, he wouldn't have much significance to Michael Jeffrey Jordan if you only reduced him to the 1985 season. Get out of here.
And by the way, folks,
I'll give him the rookie season of Jordan.
Yep.
And compare it to Derrick Jones Jr.
And by the way, folks, MJ took the then defensive team of the year, the Milwaukee Bucks, to 4 games. This is when the first round was 5 games. MJ and the Bulls took Milwaukee to 4 games. It took Milwaukee 4 games to eliminate the Bulls.
Oh and my goodness!
If you think you nearly coughed up a lung after the broad-sexual fan statement, and I'll give you the floor in just a second, you're really going to cough up a lung when I tell you this. I didn't even know who the hell Derrick Jones Jr. was until he mentioned him to me.
The only reason why I knew the name I can't remember the year, but I know he participated in the slam dunk contest before this year. That's the only, and I was like, okay, that dude's left-handed, and he normally does a tomahawk dunk. That's the only thing I really knew about him. That's the only thing I really knew about him.
But MJ has done left-handed tomahawks with more ferocity.
Oh my
exactly
gosh.
Did he do Saturday night that was so impressive? Can I get an answer to that?
All right.
What exactly did these dunkers do Saturday night that made people want to consider now this being the best slam dunk contest ever? Because I'll push back against that statement.
Well, the short answer is nothing. Okay, let me try to be as objective as I possibly can because I'm a journalist. Answer to that question is, I'll admit, I haven't seen someone jump for the free throw line and do a windmill dunk. That's something that Derrick Jones Jr. did. However, that's not the best free throw line to goal dunk I've ever seen, because I can name two guys that have done it better. One of them, Jordan. The other, Mr. Julius Erving.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
And both did it more gracefully.
And thank you, thank you, and thank you.
Yeah.
And by the way, the first time MJ took off from the free throw line for a slam dunk in the slam dunk contest, 1985, Indianapolis, Indiana.
1985. Yep. And he perfected it 2 years later.
Yep.
So, I mean, it was cool. I was like, okay, cool. An ode to the past. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yep. I get it.
There was another dunk he did where he was on the baseline. He did a between the legs 180, and he was spinning similar to the first dunk that Vince Carter did when he approached the goal and he spun, but he spun basically to where he had to reach over his body to dunk. Similar thing with Derrick Jones Jr. That was the best dunk he did that night. But the messed up part was the dude did between the legs, left tomahawk dunks almost all night long. That seemed to be the only dunk he did, other than the free throw line to goal dunk.
You're talking
that was
about
a windmill.
The 180 that Derrick Jones did. I remember a fella named Vince Carter who did that. I remember a fella named Jason Richardson who did it several times.
I do too.
Okay.
Underrated dunker.
Very underrated. Very underrated. I remember a fella named Derek Mason or Desmond Mason who played for the, wait for it, Seattle Supersonics.
No, they're the Thunder now. But
you know how I feel about, and I know why you're laughing, because you know how I feel about this.
I'm with you. Bring a team back to Seattle. Yeah, you know better.
They're the Seattle Supersonics. And I made a statement on social media, and my friends contacted me and they said, you're going to get in trouble. I'm like, bring it on. I said the next All-Star game, I know the next one's already been chosen. It'll be in Indianapolis.
Yeah, in Indy.
It'll be in Indy, and I know Indy will do it right. But
of course
the next one should be in Seattle.
Yeah. Look, before I continue, NBA, do it right. Get a team back in Seattle, name them Supersonics, because you know there should be a Seattle Supersonics representing the NBA.
Absolutely.
Period. End of story.
There's the Seattle Supersonics, and I know the entire story. Okay, I know the city of Seattle wouldn't build them a new arena. I know the argument that went on. I know a few fans in Seattle. I understand the back and forth that went on between Seattle and the NBA, and the Key Arena was very outdated. I understand that. Yep. My argument to the contrary is this. David Stern, you were the commissioner at the time. You were making money hand over fist. Couldn't you like slide Seattle some money and say, "Here, build a new arena. I'll help you build the damn thing."
And then you couldn't counter with the league can't really they can't really influence organizational decisions. And then you think about Chris Paul's trade to the Lakers being voided because the league owned the New Orleans Hornets at the time. So it could have been done, because if the league could void a trade like that, then the league could probably pay
they could
either Seattle or King County.
They could have put a down payment on a stadium in Seattle.
Any type of money toward a new arena. Or they could have tried to refurbish Key Arena. I mean, something.
If you could knock down the Seattle Center Coliseum and reconstruct it as Key Arena in a short amount of time, you could knock down Key Arena, take a little loan from the NBA, and put up a new arena and make sure it's ready to go. It could have been done easy.
But you should not, and you could not punish. And I mean, you should not punish a city and a fan base as rabid as Seattle.
And they're still rabid to this day. I mean, kudos to the Seahawks.
You can have any remnants of anything Supersonics that comes to Seattle. Prepare to have earplugs. You will hear a deafening standing ovation. That is how devoted they are to the Supersonics.
I have a few games on my computer featuring the Seattle Supersonics, and I'm talking about from 84 to 93. Okay, a couple of them were against your Houston Rockets, but you know what? You take those at the time, because there were a couple of there was one Game 7 in the Seattle Center Coliseum. That was 1993, and then the Game 6-2 overtime classic in Seattle in 1987. Before the Sonics got swept by the Lakers. My point is this: when you have a rivalry featuring the Seattle Supersonics, and you have to stay up late to watch it, because remember, 87 CBS had the NBA contract at the time. You don't mind staying up late to watch that game because you knew it was going to be a hell of a game, especially Rockets and Sonics get together. I think it was 2 straight years or 3 straight years that the Rockets and Sonics got together in the playoffs. It was something else, man.
They look as a Rockets fan. I mean, the Sonics in terms of competition, they were tough. They were tough, man. They were tough. However, the team, no joke, the team was respectful, and the fan base was respectful. And I'm saying the team was respectful even with them in the 90s having someone like a Gary Payton who just talked in the smack. but the dude was still respectful even against the Rockets.
Yes.
And I had then. Even younger, and I was more invested in the Rockets and hating the fact they lost to any team. I then, and I of course do now, have tremendous respect for the Sonics. And I'm talking about the Sonics even way back to when they had Jack Sigma at the center.
Oh my God,
all
Jack
the way
Sigma.
To the Rain Man. So I have tremendous respect.
When I put that post up and said the next game should be held in Seattle, the first comment that came down said, and the team captains should be Gus Johnson and Jack Sigma.
Gus Johnson. God, I've heard that name in years.
Johnson.
Oh.
There are so many former Sonics. Man. There are so many former Sonics you can pick as captains, and I'll go just from the time I've watched them. Of course, we just mentioned Gus Johnson and Jack Sigma. You can have Tom Chambers on one side, Dale Ellis on the other side. You can have Xavier McDaniel on one side and Gary Payton on the other side. Or Gary Payton on one side and Sean Kemp on the other side. Or how about this guard line? And you remember this duo from '87 when they played the Rockets in the playoffs. Dale Ellis on one side, Nate McMillan on the other.
Underrated point guard. Underrated point guard, McMillan was. Underrated point guard. Great handles and was a shutdown point guard on defense. And people never talk about him like that. Never.
Nope.
But man,
Robert Reed found out the hard way about Nate McMillan, because Nate McMillan
was tough to defend.
McMillan gave Robert Reed the business for 6 games in that series in '87.
Yeah. So when you talk to me about anything Sonics, as a Rockets fan, I had nothing but the utmost respect for them, because
absolutely.
Man, they gave my Rockets the blues and then some often. But all I could do was just tip my cap and respect them, because they were just that team. They just were that team.
The Sonics gave the Rockets every piece of business, just like the Knicks did to my Bulls for 2 years before we eliminated them, 92 and 93. Matter of fact, we saw them 3 straight years, 91, 92, and
91, 92, and 93.
I mean, when the Knicks got Pat Riley as a coach in 92, we knew we were in a fight. And I mean, the Knicks gave us the blues for 2 years, man. So the same respect that you have for the Sonics, I have for the Knicks and the way they were built back in the day. Okay, I have the utmost respect for Pat Riley and the New York Knicks, the way they were built.
Yeah,
I've lost all kinds of respect now for All-Star Weekend. I've lost all kinds of respect for All-Star Weekend.
Here's the thing about that, though, and to me, this is what typifies why I do not like All-Star Weekend myself. So you asked a really good question earlier when you said, okay, name me a moment that you would say, this would eclipse 1988 or even 2016 to just not regulate to old school.
Right.
Or 1986. And for those who don't know what 1986,
Spud Webb.
You had Dominique Wilkins and you had this 5'7" guy who you didn't think could even reach the rim, but he reached it with ease in Spud Webb.
Yep.
And it wasn't a coronation in 2000 with Vince Carter, and you had some really good dunkers like Steve Francis and Tracy McGrady in that competition.
Yep.
But, you didn't have those moments. Heck, even 2009, Nate Robinson and Dwight Howard. So you didn't have that type of moment. They tried to manufacture it.
How about 2006 with an underrated dunker? I believe his name is Andre Iguodala. Find me the moment. Find me the moment this past All-Star Weekend when they really and I'm going to give you this lob, okay? Let's go Larry Michaud to Hakeem Olajuwon. Find me the moment during this All-Star Weekend where they really had a chance in game to honor Kobe Bean Bryant.
Okay. Well, on Saturday, of course, you had Dwight Howard honor him. Superman jersey. He tore up his S and it said 24 on where the S would be.
Yeah.
So that was a moment. The All-Star Slam Dunk competition, man, one of them could have come up with that iconic dunk that LeBron James actually replicated. That would have been awesome. If someone came up with that dunk, that would have been the moment of the weekend.
Oh yeah,
game included. And the funny thing is, the moment of the weekend was in the slam dunk competition. The moment of the weekend was in the slam dunk competition because you had Aaron Gordon, who you can argue he was robbed in 2016. I don't lean toward he was robbed. I would say if he got the trophy in 2016 instead of Zach LaVine, I would not argue.
Right.
But to me, it was that close.
Right.
You had a guy who dunked over a 7'5" individual. Now, you can argue, well, his leg on his way down clipped Taco Fall's head. Okay, fine. So don't give him a 50. But Can you dunk over somebody 7 foot? No, I can't either. And to add to that, I've only seen one person do it, and that's the greatest dunker of all time, and that is Vincent Carter.
Yes.
That's the only guy I've ever seen literally dunk over a 7-footer.
And he did it in game.
I mean, he did it in game, cleared 7 feet. So I've only seen it once, and that was 20 years ago. 20 years ago. That's how far ahead of his time Vince was. So fast forward to Saturday. You had this moment where you had a guy who leapt over a 7-footer.
Yep.
Because he still cleared him 7 feet. I don't care if you say, well,
he did.
Taco Fall ducked. Fine, he ducked. It still jumped 7 feet. The guy cleared 7 feet. A 7-foot man to dunk.
Yeah.
That was your highlight of the weekend. That was your moment of the weekend. And then you have the story of Gordon, quote, being cheated, close quote, 4 years ago. The committee had the moment, the judges had the moment where they could have righted the wrong, quote.
Yep.
And they could have given him the trophy. That would have been the moment of the weekend. What did they do?
They gave it to
They
Derrick Jones.
awarded him 1 point short, and they gave it to Jones instead. And I'm like, doggone it, you had the moment of the weekend. Because that was not going to eclipse the game itself.
No.
I'm sorry. It was not going to eclipse the game itself.
It wasn't.
I mean, the game wasn't going to eclipse that in that moment. You had the moment of the weekend, and you ruined it.
And they blew it.
And
they blew it.
You blew it. You ruined it.
And when you told me that, that helped me lead off my show this morning. I led off part of my show this morning when I did my Snowman's Take with that particular moment. I mean, y'all, you had a chance to really put it down, and you didn't.
Because that was the moment of the All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, it was.
That was the moment.
Yeah, it was.
And they had it handed to him on a silver platter. They could have given him a 49. If they gave him a 49, that still would have been good.
That was ball game. That was ball game.
Yeah, ball game. Because to me, I was thinking, he cleared a 7-footer? Oh, game, set, match. That's going to
tallest man. He cleared the tallest man in the league. 7'5" Taco Fall. He cleared him.
Yeah.
He cleared him.
He cleared the tallest. How the heck you clear the tallest man in the league and you don't have him win the competition? That blows my mind. So I'm like, man, if you all who are inside baseball, or in this case basketball, you can't see that's a moment that you've got to savor and you have to promote.
Absolutely.
Then you have failed as a whole organization.
Yeah, you did.
Because that was the moment. The crowd didn't cheer any louder in any portion of the whole weekend than when that dunk happened.
Yeah.
That was your moment.
That was.
And you ruined the moment.
They ruined the moment.
That was your moment. And that right there is a microcosm as to why people do not take the All-Star game seriously. Because you have shenanigans like that happen.
Yep.
One too many times.
Way too many times. Way too many times.
Man.
And I'll never be a fan again until they correct it, until they get it correct, and actually put on a game that's actually worth watching. And they take it off of TNT and bring it back to either CBS or NBC. Get those 4 evil letters out of the equation, NBA.
Well, to be fair, the All-Star Week, ESPN does do some of it, but they don't do all of it. Because the main focus is on TNT. So the ESPN does the celebrity game. They do that.
Oh, God.
But TNT does the rest.
That farce. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Who invites who puts the celebrity list together? They held that at Wintrust Arena Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
Who put the celebrity list together? Because aside of Darius Miles, Stephen A., and Michael Wilbon, and yes, there was a Horace Grant and Nate Robinson sighting. They were Bulls' favorites.
Right.
I don't know who the hell half these people are.
well, Quentin Richardson. I knew who he was.
Quentin Richardson, yes. Oh my. I've met Quentin. I went to high school with his sister, and I had a chance to interview him in 1998. Quentin Richardson, yes. Okay, I'll take him off the table.
Mm-hmm.
Who the hell are these other people?
I would seriously not be surprised if ESPN/Disney picks the list, because I just don't know if the NBA is all that invested in saying, well, yeah, we want this particular celebrity, or we want the celebrity list to be like this.
You know when they did it right? I'm like, you know when they did it right? They had the old timers game, and they eliminated it.
Now that I loved. Yeah.
They eliminated the old timers game. Now, I loved watching the old timers game because when I really first started getting into basketball, it gave me an idea of who the guys were that preceded the guys I love. I get that.
Right.
I get that.
Yeah. It deepens your love of the sport, and it's supposed to.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. They need to bring that back. Can we see a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar skyhook one more time? Can we see Reggie Miller suited? And Dr. K, this one's for you. Can we see Reggie Miller suited up one more time, wearing the blue and gold of the Pacers, and have him crank one from 25 feet? Can we see
after he runs a curl to do it?
Yep,
yeah.
After he runs a curl off a screen from Dale Davis, or no, I got one for you. Since we're talking Indiana Pacers, you're gonna love this name. Can we see Chuck Connors' person launch a couple of threes from distance?
Oh man, that brother there.
Can we see Chuck Person hit a couple of them? Can we see Vern Fleming bring the ball up? And yes, I'm paying absolute tribute to the Pacers and my beautiful wife, because I used to watch the Pacers back in the...
Oh, my gosh. I haven't seen that name in decades.
Vern out of Georgia.
I haven't seen that name in decades. Oh, my gosh. I think I was barely in high school when I saw it. Oh, wow.
Vern Fleming. All right.
Wow, you really dusted off one that I haven't heard in a long time.
Can we see Rick Smits drop a hook over somebody's head a couple of times?
Man, underrated center. Underrated.
I mentioned I love the Dunkin' Dutchman. Love the Dunkin' Dutchman. Can we get a replay on the big screen in the United Center of Reggie Miller's 8 points in 9 seconds? I know they play it at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. And I'm familiar with Bankers Life Fieldhouse and how that screen is. You play that next year. This is what they need to do next year in Indy, which is where the All-Star game is. It'll be at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. They need to cue up that clip of his 8 points in 9 seconds.
Oh man, that was
and have Mark Boyle and Slick Leonard add their radio call to it.
Boom, baby.
I used it when I was covering Marquette Catholic. I used that phrase for 2 years. I did. I used boom, baby, for 3-point goals for 2 years. They need to have that in Indy. And you know, so I asked a friend of mine, you know, where it was going to be held. He said Bankers Life Fieldhouse. You know where my brain was going? Lucas Oil Stadium.
Lucas Oil Stadium.
You know where my brain was going? If they can have it in the Hoosier Dome, as it was called back in 1985, they sure as hell can put a floor in Lucas Oil Stadium. They do it for the NCAAs. Done it twice already.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was about to say more than once. I was just about to say they did it more than once
already.
In that stadium.
In Lucas Oil.
Yeah, but not just in Indy, in that particular stadium.
Look, they had it at the Hoosier Dome. They've had it the Hoosier / RCA Dome twice, and they had it at Lucas Oil Stadium twice.
Twice.
You mean to tell me there won't be enough interest for them to put some extra seats on the floor at Lucas Oil Stadium and put about 80,000 people in there? If they can do it in Dallas, they can do it in Indy.
Now, see, that to me is a great indictment against the All-Star Weekend. If you, as the highest level of professional sports in your field, you can't pack, or you don't feel as though you can pack, a I'll be on the conservative side. 80,000. Because I think it would probably be 80. 80,000 seat stadium. Yeah. But the Final Four in the NCAA can, and you know they can pack it for 3 games.
And they always do.
That should tell you the All-Star game is messed up. That should tell you right there the interest level or lack thereof in the NBA All-Star game.
And there's a point I mentioned earlier in the show. You can pack 70,000 people into Lucas Oil Stadium on 2 occasions for 3 games and have over 200,000 people attend those 3 games, and you can't pack 70,000 into Lucas Oil for 1?
Once. Just do it one time. Yeah.
You mean
to tell me that right there is that's an indictment against the All-Star weekend.
Yes. I agreed. You mean to tell me that the year they had it in Dallas, I think it was 2010, their original plan was to have it at American Airlines Arena, but the interest was so out of control they had to move it to was then called Cowboy Stadium at the time.
That's right.
You mean to tell me that on a last-minute move, you can pack 110,000 into Cowboy Stadium, and you can't even begin to open the floodgates for Lucas Oil and put 80,000 people there? There's your there's your question, and there's your answer about the lack of interest in the NBA All-Star game, that you feel you don't have the ability to pack Lucas Oil Stadium, one of the most popular stadiums, not just in the Midwest, but in the country.
Yep.
It's held a Super Bowl. It's held 2 Final Fours, and you can't put the All-Star game in Lucas Oil Stadium?
And it's not like they don't know how to hold events on an annual basis. They hold the Combine every year there. So,
the Combine draws people, okay?
And you would think it wouldn't, and that draws people. So,
one side of the stadium, I understand, is closed off because they have everything on the near sideline. But at the same time, that's the side that's open is full. The side that is open is full. And you mean to tell me that you can't put 80,000 people in Lucas Oil Stadium for the NBA All-Star game? And I understand Bankers Life Fieldhouse can put 20,000 in there. I understand that. I understand that. But but one corner of that place is going to be roped off because of the doggone introductions. Because of the screen that's going to be used. I mean, it's gotten more WWE than anything else.
Oh man, you stole my thunder, because that's exactly where I was going to go. I was like, so to me, I think the NBA goes the wrong route, because that's exactly what I think. It's like, I think they want to fancy themselves as the WWE, and they want to have like a big old Titantron. But instead of just having them play clips of people, they just play clips of people, and that's where they have the players be introduced and walk out. And I'm thinking, you don't need that.
You really don't.
You don't really need that. You don't have to set it up like it's a concert. You don't need that.
If they can pack the Kingdome here, I go referencing Seattle again, but think about how true this is. If they could pack the Kingdome in Seattle with 40,000 people and not need a Titantron setup for the introduction of the players, you would think they would draw upon that and not go through and not go through all of the rigmarole setup to bring the players out. But since 2004, since 2005, I want to say 2005, they've had this ridiculous introduction set up. It's ridiculous.
And it goes for when the Astrodome hosted in 1989. It goes for when the Alamo Dome in San Antonio hosted in 1996.
Yes.
You know, it goes for those 2 instances where you had these big time stadiums, and at least 50,000 people were packed in those stadiums.
Yeah.
And you did not need to have that elaborate concert stage that lights up as an LED board behind you if you're standing on the stage.
Yes.
for a presentation. You didn't
need
that.
Right.
And you don't need that now.
They really don't. They really don't. I mean, you would think that they'd learned their lesson. I mean, Madison Square Garden, 1998, and I'll close with this. And I know y'all have enjoyed this conversation. Believe me, when one day happens, when Cole and I get the same day off, I'm just going to hit this recorder and we're just going to go, and it's going to be a podcast episode. 1998, it was at Madison Square Garden in New York. They didn't turn the spotlights off. They didn't turn the house lights off then. They turned the spotlights on, and they had the players walk out from their respective locker rooms.
Perfect.
They had the dancers. They had a band playing. Yeah, that's about as far as they went. But at the same time, when you had some of the players that you had back in 1998, Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, of course, Michael Jordan, Tim Hardaway at the time, you don't need anything else, man.
No. I mean, the event is called All Star.
Yep.
So to me, that gives me the impression that the star is the player, and if the star is the player, that should be the focal point of the whole event.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it that there's other elements that are introduced to not make the star or the elite player or the superstar player to be the focal point of this weekend?
Dare I mention Drake? 2016.
Yeah. And this
dare
goes
I
to
mention Drake?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I understand him being an ambassador for Toronto. I understand that. He was a big-time ambassador when the Raptors won the World Championship. I get that. I understand that. I'm cool with that. But at the same time, you have Drake doing the introductions.
And ridiculous. And it leads me to my greatest gripe about All-Star Weekend. So the slam dunk competition itself is a sore spot for me.
Yep.
And why is that? You mentioned it earlier in this interview when you said, "Who the heck is Derrick Jones Jr.?" That is what we have been saying for almost the last 20 years when it comes to this event.
Yes.
Why is that? Because you have bench players on that stage instead of starters. And the reason why the event was so popular was because you had the greatest players in that time performing these feats in that event.
Yes.
Who wants to look? I like Aaron Gordon. I got respect for him.
Yes.
But seriously,
absolutely.
Who wants to see him? Who wants to see Derrick Jones Jr.? Who wants to see that? Who wants to see them?
I'll repeat my question I said earlier. They want to. I'll repeat my question I said earlier in the hour. Who the hell is Derrick Jones?
Right.
Who in the Vita Blue hell is Derrick Jones? And why?
And
I got to get, you know what? You need to do me a favor. You need to send an email to this bronzexual fan, and you need to do it now about Derrick. I am totally, look, we've gone off the rails here, folks. I may as well bring this part into it, too, because there's one more subject I have on tap. We'll get to that in a moment. But you need to send an email really quick to this bronzexual fan, if you would, sir.
All right. Okay, all right. If you so inclined. All right. All right, here we go. Email bronzexual fan. CC all bronzexuals. Subject of email, idiot. Body of email. Okay, sir. So, Derrick Jones Jr., he of the Heat, same height as Jordan. So we're talking about a shooting guard / small forward for the Heat. Was with the Suns. is supposed to have the impact similar to that of Michael Jeffrey Jordan. What gives you the impression that he could do that? And I say that in all honesty, because I'm dealing with a guy who his best season was last year. He played 60 games. He started 14. He only averaged 19 minutes. And he scored. I'm sorry. It's just hilarious to me when I hear people say, scored 7 points on average with 4 rebounds. And, steals 2, less than 1 steal a game. And this is the guy you prop up and say he's going to have a bigger impact than Michael Jordan. Come on, man. Look, I will not even insult Michael Jordan in comparing him for the rest of his whole career. I'll shorten it to 1. And the 1 year I was shorten it to is 1985. I'll shorten it to that. Here's a guy who he averaged 38 minutes. He started all 82 games. A novel concept. A guy who actually starts and plays 82 games in a regular season for an NBA.
Yes.
He averaged 28 points. 28.
Mm-hmm.
Pulled down 7 boards, 6 assists to boot. I'm just shrinking it to his rookie season.
Yep.
85, his rookie season. And the stats I just said for Derrick Jones Jr., that wasn't his rookie season.
Sure
He's
wasn't.
been in the league 4 years. And you mean to tell me this guy has more of an impact? You're saying that will have more of an impact than the guy who off the bus from Dean Smith gave you 28, 7, and 6? You were smoking something, son. Come on. Look, you all just simply want, yes, I'm addressing it to you, Mr. Bronsexual fan, and all Bronsexual fans. You all do your best to try to denigrate people like Michael Jordan just to boost up number 23 of your heart. To say, this guy is better than Jordan because, well, Jordan didn't do all this. I just gave you his rookie season. 6 years before he hoisted up his first Larry O'Brien trophy. And people would literally kill to have stats like the which I read for Michael Jordan his rookie season. So, in closing, let me say this. You need to gather perspective, son. Derrick Jones Jr., he couldn't carry Michael Jordan's bags. He's not even worthy to do that. He might be worthy to maybe lick the heel on Michael Jordan's sneaker. Don't compare. Don't say anything blasphemous like that ever again in life. Because Derrick Jones Jr. in his 4 years doesn't even measure up to Michael Jordan in his very first. Doesn't even measure up to Michael Jordan in his very last year. I'll even give you that. 26-4, I'll give you that. His last year in the NBA was better than Derrick Jones Jr. Nah, son. Nah, son. Miss me 100% with your misguided, this guy will have more impact than Michael Jordan take. It is off base. And you may need to go to the optometrist and get your eyes checked. Cole Johnson, Cold Sport, with the Z.com. Part of the Snowman Media, Digital Media Network.
Bravo, sir.
Oh, good Lord.
There was another part to this conversation, but after some things that were brought to my attention, I'll have to play that at another time, and I'll have to revise it. And I will indeed do that. And I got to thank my wife, Dr. K, for bringing some things to my attention after I taped this conversation that I didn't know. As she said best, I was mansplaining it, and I didn't have all the facts. So I apologize to my guest, Cole Johnson. I apologize to my beautiful Dr. K. And, I should apologize to myself because a situation happened to me in 2015. I'll play the second part of that for you tomorrow, and then I will add my addendum to that. But that'll do it for this episode. Until tomorrow, have a great day. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move. And always remember, if your dreams don't scare you, then they are not big enough. Dream big, do bigger. I am, and I hope y'all are too. Until tomorrow, Snowman out.